Yo, what's good, guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. Today, I've got a story for you that I thought I had already told years ago, but after searching through my channel, turns out I haven't. So today is finally the day I shared this one with you. I hope you enjoy it, leave a like on the video if you do, and let's get right into it. This story takes us back to my freshman year of high school. For some reason, a lot of my recent stories have been from freshman year. I guess that's just when a lot of the most interesting shit went down. This was about halfway through the year, and it happened on a weekend, specifically a Saturday. It started like any other Saturday. I woke up around noon, happy as hell that I could sleep in. I got up, started my day slowly, just enjoying the lazy weekend vibes. I was especially excited that day because I was going to hang out with my buddy Patrick. Now, Patrick was my main stoner friend at the time. Most of the other people in our friend group either weren't really into smoking weed or just didn't do it much. Patrick, though, he was my go-to stoner buddy. We had a plan to match weed, smoke a ton, roam around town, grab some fast food, and just chill. It was the perfect plan for a lazy Saturday. A few hours later, it was finally time to meet up with Patrick. I walked about a mile to his house since he lived pretty close to where my mom and I lived at the time. When I got there, we hung out at his place for a bit, just killing time until his parents left for the day. We decided to head over to a nearby park to smoke since his parents were home, and, well, obviously we couldn't light up in his house. So, we went over to the park and started our little smoke session. Nothing really out of the ordinary happened. Everything was good. We were enjoying ourselves. About halfway through the session, Patrick brought up a conversation about our parents and what they thought about weed. He looked over at me and asked, "Yo, Austin, what do your parents think about you smoking?" I took a drag, then replied, "Bro, my parents hate it. Like, no hesitation. If they catch me with weed, I'm getting grounded on the spot. What about yours?" Patrick shook his head. "Same, man. My mom caught me one time, and I was grounded for a whole fucking month," he said. I nodded. "Damn, that's rough," I said. He continued, "Yeah, that's why we gotta smoke at the park. If we do it anywhere near my house, they'll definitely find out." We smoked for a bit longer at the park, then headed over to Taco Bell for some food. After eating, we walked around town, just enjoying the high and the warm afternoon. Eventually, it was time to head back to Patrick's place. We weren't as high by then, and we didn't smell too much like weed, so we figured his parents wouldn't notice anything. Plus, I was planning to stay the night at Patrick's house since I didn't really feel like walking home in the cold, even though it was only a mile away. Back at Patrick's place, we were just hanging out in the basement, playing some Call of Duty, doing the usual. It started getting late and Patrick's parents went to bed. That's when my dumbass had an idea. I looked over at Patrick and said, "Yo, Patrick, after your parents are asleep, what do you think about smoking another bowl? We could do it out of the basement window." He looked at me unsure. "I don't know, man. I've never done that before," he said. I shrugged. "We don't have to. Just an idea," I said. He thought for a moment and then said, "Alright, let's wait until they're definitely asleep and then I'll let you know." I nodded. Bet. A couple of hours later, Patrick's parents were knocked out. Me and Patrick climbed on top of the freezer he had in the basement, opened the small basement window, and lit up. Everything went fine. We smoked, no issues, and we didn't get caught. Not at that moment anyway. Patrick was so high afterward that he passed out on the couch, leaving me stoned out of my mind, playing Call of Duty by myself. I was just sitting there, focused on the game, when about 5 minutes later I heard footsteps. Loud, heavy footsteps coming down the basement stairs. Instantly, my heart dropped. The whole basement reeked of weed. I looked over at Patrick, still dead asleep, and I started panicking. I turned around to see who was coming down the stairs, and sure enough, it was Patrick's mom. She looked pissed, furious. She walked up to where we were, giving both of us a death stare, even though Patrick was knocked out. She looked at me and asked, "Is Patrick asleep?" I nodded. "Yeah, he just fell asleep like 5 minutes ago." She shook her head, clearly annoyed. "Come upstairs," she said. I stood up, my heart pounding, following her up the stairs. I knew what was coming. She was definitely going to call my mom, have her come pick me up, and then ground Patrick when he woke up. I was fucked. When we got to the kitchen, Patrick's dad was there too. That's when I knew I was really in trouble. She sat me down at the kitchen table, and Patrick's dad just stood there, staring at me. Patrick's mom looked at me and said, "I smelled weed upstairs. I could smell it all the way from the basement, and when I came down, it reeked. I can tell by your eyes that you're high, so why don't you just be honest with me? Did you two smoke weed down there?" I sighed, knowing I was caught. "Yeah, we did," I admitted. She crossed her arms. "Where is it?" she asked. I hesitated for a second and then said, "It's in my backpack downstairs." She nodded. "Does Patrick have any weed?" she asked. I shook my head. "No, he doesn't," I lied. Patrick actually had most of the weed. It was hidden in his room, but the weed we were smoking downstairs was mine. We had been taking turns smoking from each other's stash. She eyed me suspiciously. "Are you lying to me?" she asked. "No, I swear. He doesn't have any." "It was all mine," I said, taking the blame. She stared at me for a moment and then said, "All right, thanks for being honest. Go get it." I nodded and went back downstairs, grabbed the weed from my bag and brought it back up. Patrick was still asleep. He didn't wake up through any of this. I sat back down at the kitchen table, put the weed on the table, and she looked at it before saying, "All right, I'm not going to call your mom. I won't tell her about this, but I want the weed." I nodded. "Yeah, it's yours," I said, relieved she wasn't going to call my mom. She took the weed, put it in her robe pocket, and I thought that was it. But then she got up, walked over to one of the kitchen drawers, and pulled out a $20 bill. She came back, handed it to me, and said, "Here, I feel bad for taking your weed without giving you anything for it." I stared at her, confused. "Did you just buy weed off me?" I asked. She shrugged. "Not directly, but if that's how you want to see it, sure." I couldn't believe it. She had just taken my weed and then paid me for it. The amount she took was probably worth like $15, so not only did she take it, but she overpaid me for it too. I was in shock. After that, she and Patrick's dad went back to their room and I went back downstairs. I woke Patrick up and said, "Bro, you're never gonna guess what just happened." He rubbed his eyes, still half asleep. "What? What happened?" he asked. I laughed. "Dude, your mom came down here. She smelled the weed and took it. But I took all the blame. I told her it was all mine and that you didn't have any weed stashed away." He looked at me, concerned. "Shit, man. Did she call your mom?" I shook my head. "No, she didn't. But get this, after she took the weed, she gave me $20 because she felt bad for taking it. I think I just accidentally sold your mom weed, bro." He stared at me, dumbfounded. "You're fucking with me," he said. "Nah, man, I'm dead serious," I replied. He shook his head, lying back down. "I'm going back to sleep," he mumbled. The next morning, we talked about it again. Patrick still couldn't believe it. "You're really not fucking with me on this?" he asked. "Dude, I swear it's true," I said. He just shook his head in disbelief. "Man, when I got caught, my mom grounded me for a month. She didn't call your mom or anything?" he asked. "Nope," I said. He sighed. "I can't believe she cut you some slack, but not me." I shrugged. "I guess she likes me or something. Plus, I'm not her kid, so maybe she didn't feel like she could discipline me the way she does you." Honestly, I was just as surprised as he was. I mean, it kinda made sense. She always seemed to like me, and maybe she didn't feel right about calling my mom since I wasn't her kid. But the fact that she gave me money for taking my weed? That blew my mind. Like, "Hey, sorry for taking your weed, Luna. Here's $20. Go buy some more." If you're a parent, maybe don't do that. Anyway, my mom didn't find out about this, at least not right away. I ended up telling her the story a few years later because it was just too funny not to share. And now, here I am, sharing it with you guys, so I hope you enjoyed it. Moral of the story, don't do what young Luna and Patrick... Yo, what's good guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. So today's story time is one that's kind of funny, in hindsight at least. At the time though, not so much. Hope you guys enjoy this one. Leave a like on the video if you do, and let's just jump right into it. Alright, so today's story is about the time I got a little too high before detention. Yeah, you heard that right. Getting high before detention, as if I didn't already have enough problems. You're probably wondering how that even happened. Well, let me take you back to freshman year. This was about halfway through the year, and I was so over it. I was sick of school, I just wanted it to be summer. You know that feeling, right? Where every day feels like a drag? Yeah, that was me. So, it's a regular weekday, I got up miserable, just not in the mood to deal with school. I took a shower, ate some breakfast, and surprisingly, I was actually up pretty early this day. I had time to get ready without rushing, which was unusual for me, and just before the bus got to my house, I made a very stupid decision. I decided to bring a little bit of weed with me to school. Bad idea, right? Don't ever do that. But my dumbass thought it was smart because I planned to smoke a bit after school in the woods with my friends before taking the after-school bus home. So I grabbed like $10 worth of weed, put it in a little baggie, tossed it in my backpack, and went to school. Most of the day was chill, nothing really out of the ordinary, but my last period, which was study hall, things started to go south. Now, in this study hall, all we had to do was sit quietly and do work. Sounds simple, right? The only rule was to stay quiet, but of course I wasn't following that rule. I kept cracking jokes with my friend sitting next to me, and we were laughing our asses off at some stupid shit. The kind of joke that's not even that funny, but when you're with a certain friend, it becomes hilarious, you know? The study hall teacher kept getting more and more annoyed. She was like, "Guys, come on, the one thing you have to do is stay quiet and you can't even manage that?" but every time we tried to stay quiet, it made everything funnier. It was one of those situations where being told not to laugh just makes it 10 times harder to keep a straight face. Finally, the teacher had had enough. She looks at us and says, "One more laugh and you're both getting detention." And of course, that just made it even funnier. My friend and I looked at each other and it was like trying to hold back a sneeze. I couldn't do it. I burst out laughing and he followed right after. The teacher just looked at us deadpan and said, "Alright, I'll see you both after school. Guess you're not going home on time today." I was pissed. My whole day was ruined. I had plans to go smoke with my friends after school, but now I had detention. So, the bell rings, study hall ends, and even though I was fuming, I figured I'd make the best of it. My friend and I went into the hallway before heading to detention, and I was like, "Yo, I really don't want to go to detention, man." And he was like, "Bro, just go. If you skip, they'll just give you 2 detentions, and it will be even worse." He was right. He was spitting facts. So, I decided, fine, I'll go. But I'm gonna get high first. So I told him, "Yo, I've got weed in my locker. You wanna go smoke before we go in?" He was down, of course. We grabbed my bag, went out to the woods behind the school, and smoked a bowl together. By this point, the bell had rung to start detention, but we just ignored it and kept smoking. Now, here's where things get interesting. My friend didn't have much of a tolerance, and honestly, neither did I. I smoked more often than him, but that wasn't saying much. I was still a lightweight. He took one hit and said he was good. So I ended up finishing the bowl myself and, well, let's just say I was absolutely gone. I was on another planet by the time we finished. Now, it was time to head back inside for detention. I was late, like 10 or 15 minutes late, and walking back into school stoned out of my mind was not a good feeling. I went from vibing in the woods to stepping into what felt like a concrete prison. The fluorescent lights were hitting me and it just felt wrong. My friend and I walked into detention and the teacher looked at us like we were the biggest idiots she'd ever seen. She goes, "Are you guys serious right now? You're 10 minutes late to your own detention. I should give you another one." And I just said, "I'm sorry," and started laughing. She was like, "What's so funny? You think this is a joke?" I said, "No, I'm sorry," but I couldn't stop laughing. She just shook her head and told us to sit on opposite sides of the room. So we sat down and I pulled out some homework to make it look like I was working. But let me be real, I was way too high to be doing math. I just sat there, lost in my own thoughts, not doing anything. Halfway through detention, the teacher walked over to my desk and saw that I hadn't written a single thing. She goes, "Austin, what have you been doing this whole time? I thought you were working." And I said, "Oh, this is a new sheet. I already did the other one." She goes, "Let me see it." I said, "It's in my backpack already." She gave me a look and said, "Don't lie to me, Austin. I know you haven't done anything. Get to work." She was about to walk away when she stopped and sniffed the air. She goes, "What is that smell?" And in my head, I'm like, "Oh shit, I probably reek of weed." I looked up at her with my bloodshot eyes and said, "What smell?" She just stared at me and said, "Oh my, look at you. Look at your eyes. You're high, aren't you?" I said, No, I'm not." I looked over at my friend and he had his head down on the desk, laughing his ass off. Tears were streaming down his face. The teacher looked at him and said, "Are you high too?" He lifted his head, still laughing, and she just shook her head in disbelief. She said, "That's it. Detention for the rest of the week." And for some reason, that made us laugh even harder. I don't know what got into me. Well, actually I do. But usually when I got yelled at while I was high, I'd panic and shut down. But this time, I just couldn't stop laughing. She looked at us, completely fed up, and said, "You know, I could send you both up to the main office right now and get you suspended. How about that?" And that shut us up real quick. Detention was one thing, but suspension? That meant my parents getting involved, my Xbox taken away, my phone gone, the whole deal. Plus, enough suspensions and you get expelled. So yeah, we shut up fast. The teacher knew she had us. She was like, "Oh, real quiet now, huh? Get back to work." And let me tell you, I spent the rest of that detention doing my best to focus on that homework, even though I was still stoned out of my mind. I'm pretty sure I failed that assignment. I don't even remember what grade I got, but I can tell you it wasn't good. I could barely do math when I was sober, let alone high as a kite. In the end though, it could have been worse. I'm lucky the teacher, even though she was strict, didn't actually get us suspended. If it had been my other study hall teacher, I probably wouldn't have been as lucky. That other teacher was way stricter and definitely would have called the office. But, yeah, after detention, my friend and I just took the late bus home, hopped on Xbox and played some MW2 while laughing about what happened. Looking back, it's a pretty funny story, even if it wasn't at the time. And I definitely learned my lesson. Don't get high at school. It's just not worth it. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace. peace. Yo, what's good guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. Today's story time is a wild one, and it's honestly one of the more ridiculous moments from my past. I hope you guys enjoy it, and if you do, please leave a like on the video. Alright, let's jump into it. So, today's story takes us back to the summer of 2015. I was definitely in my peak dumb Luna phase, young, dumb, and just not as mature as I am now. It was summer, so everyone was out of school, including me, since I was in the process of dropping out at the time. I was basically in limbo. My friends and I were all hanging out pretty much every day, crashing on each other's couches and making the most of our time off. On this particular day, I was hanging out with my friend Brian. We decided to hit up a playground to smoke because we couldn't do it at our parents' houses without risking getting grounded. We found an empty playground, no kids or families around, and we were just chilling there, smoking a bowl. It wasn't anything crazy, just the usual spot to hang out since we had nowhere else to go. The first 10-20 minutes were pretty chill. We finished the first bowl and Brian was like, "Yo, wanna smoke another one?" I was down, so we packed another one. But as we were getting ready to light up, I started feeling a bit paranoid. I always got a little sketched out when I was high, so I looked around to make sure no one was around. Everything seemed clear and we started smoking again. But then, out of nowhere, I noticed an SUV pulling into the parking lot. The lot was a decent distance from the playground, so I couldn't see the details of the car too well. It was a black SUV, and I thought maybe it was just someone on their lunch break. Sometimes people park there to eat lunch. But then, I saw a man get out of the car and start walking towards us. And not just any man, it was a cop. My heart sank. I nudged Brian and whispered, "Yo, dude, put that shit away. There's a cop coming." Brian, who was already pretty stoned, looked confused and was like, "Huh? Where?" I tried to stay calm and told him, "Bro, just put it away. Trust me." He finally put the ball away, but he kept looking around like he had no clue what was happening. The cop walked up to us and I heard him say, "What are you boys doing here?" I looked up, trying to act casual, and said, "Not much, just hanging out, enjoying summer vacation." He asked how old we were, and we both answered, 16. He gave us this look and said, "A little old to be playing on a playground, don't you think?" I quickly replied, "We're not playing, just hanging out. All the benches are wet from the rain, so we figured we'd sit here where it's dry." Which was true. We would have much rather sat on a bench, but they were all soaked. The cop then got straight to the point. He said, "Alright, I'm gonna ask you once, and I want you to be honest with me. You boys smoking weed out here? I can smell it, and it smells like skunk." Before I could even answer, Brian jumped in. He said, "No, officer, absolutely not. We were smoking, but it was just tobacco." The cop looked skeptical and said, "Tobacco, huh?" Brian nodded, and to prove his point, he unzipped his backpack and pulled out the bowl. The weed in the bowl was already pretty charred, so it wasn't obvious what it was. It just looked like some blackened substance. Brian even had an excuse for the smell. He said, "I know it smells like weed, but that's just because I used this pipe for weed in the past. Today, it's only tobacco, I swear." I was sitting there thinking, this is the dumbest thing ever. We were 16 and we had a tiny amount of weed, maybe $20 worth. If Brian had just told the truth, the cop probably would have let us off with a warning and told us to go home. But instead, Brian was making up this whole elaborate story. The cop took the bowl from Brian, looked at it, and even smelled it. He was like, "So you're telling me this is tobacco and it only smells like weed because you used it for weed before?" Brian nodded and swore on his mom and dad that it was only tobacco. The cop asked if we had fake IDs and we both said no. Brian added that he had used a fake ID to buy the tobacco, but that it was at his parents' house. The cop told us that if we did have fake IDs, we should get rid of them because it was a serious charge. Surprisingly, the cop handed the bowl back to Brian and said, "Alright, I'm giving this back, but if I catch you guys out here again, or if we get more calls about you, you're getting trespassed." That confirmed that someone had called the cops on us for smoking in the park. The cop walked back to his car and I looked at Brian. I said, "Rest in peace to Dave and Linda," which were his parents' names. He looked confused and asked why I was saying that. I said, "Bro, you swore on your parents' lives that it was tobacco. Really? You had to go that far?" He just laughed and said, "Did it not work? I was saying whatever I could to make him believe me, and it worked." I couldn't argue with that. It did work, but I still thought it was crazy that he went that far. Brian was always the most spiritual guy in our friend group, so it was wild to me that he'd swear on his parents' lives while lying. I kept giving him shit about it all day, jokingly asking if he wanted to swear on his parents' lives every time he said something. Obviously nothing happened to his parents, they're still in good health to this day, but it was just such a bold move. In the end, the cop let us off with a warning, and we decided to find a different spot to smoke from then on. We didn't go back to that park for a long time after that. Moral of the story: Don't be like Brian. That whole situation could have gone a lot worse. And honestly, don't be like me back then either. We were just being reckless, always getting ourselves into trouble. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video and feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you all later. Peace. Yo, what's good guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. So today's story time is one of those not so proud moments of mine, one of those stories where I look back and just think, damn, I was so out of pocket for this one. I hope you guys enjoy it, and maybe get a laugh out of how dumb I was. Let's just get into it. This all starts off as a regular day in 2019. I was sitting in my apartment, all by myself. I'd just woken up and it was already late as hell. I had a terrible sleep schedule back then, and honestly, not much has changed. I think I woke up around 4 p.m, which gives you an idea of how much of a degenerate I was. So I was just laying there, either watching YouTube or Netflix, basically wasting away like a lazy ass. Anyway, my phone had fallen off the bed at some point while I was sleeping, so I hadn't heard it go off all day. I finally reached down to grab it and checked for notifications. I had a bunch of missed messages, and one of them was from my friend John. He had texted me about an hour before, inviting me to his birthday party that night. I had completely forgotten it was John's birthday, so I was lucky he reminded me. I texted him back, all sluggish and half asleep, at around 4:30 saying, "Hey, sorry bro, I didn't see this. You already know I'm gonna be there. I'll see you later." Fast forward a couple hours, John's party was starting and I was ready to go. I got myself cleaned up, took a shower, got dressed, and headed out. I stopped at a store on my way to grab him a little birthday gift. I didn't want to be that guy who shows up empty-handed, so I got him a card with some cash in it. Just something simple, you know. After that, I made my way over to John's place. The first half of the party was awesome. Everyone was there, all our friends, and John had his house decorated for the occasion. It was wholesome, just a really fun birthday party vibe. But then things started to take a turn, for the worse. It all went downhill when I decided to start drinking. Now, I don't drink often. In fact, I can probably count on one hand the number of times I've gotten drunk. It's just never been my thing. Drinking never makes me feel good, and usually it just leads to something bad happening. And, well, this was definitely one of those times. I started out with just a couple of beers, nothing too crazy, I could handle that. But after those 2 beers, everyone else started taking shots. And of course, John was like, "Come on, Austin, take a shot with us." So I took 2, maybe 3 shots, and that's when things started to get messy. I was fucked up after those shots. I mean, I never drink, so my tolerance is practically zero. I could feel myself getting hammered, but everyone just kept on going. They kept pouring shots, and each time they'd be like, "Come on, Austin, one more, let's go." And the dumbass that I am, I just kept going along with it until I blacked out. I shit you not, the last thing I remember from that party was taking a shot of what I think was tequila. I remember everyone cheering and egging me on, and then nothing. It was just blank. The next thing I knew, I was waking up the following morning. I felt like I'd been hit by a fucking truck. I woke up in John's bed, in his bedroom, completely alone. I had no idea where John was and I felt awful. I mean, it wasn't just a hangover. It was like a hangover mixed with getting your ass beat. I got up feeling sore as hell and noticed a huge bruise on my ribcage. I must have fallen or something while I was drunk. I stumbled across the hall to the bathroom, took a piss, and then went over to the sink to wash my hands. That's when I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. And holy shit, I looked like I'd been in a bar brawl. I had a black eye, my lip was busted, my face was swollen. I looked like I'd gotten the absolute shit kicked out of me. I was like, yo, what the fuck happened last night? I needed answers. I went downstairs, looking around for John. The house was a mess, trash everywhere from the party. I couldn't find him inside, so I went over to the sliding glass door and saw John in the backyard cleaning up. I opened the door and walked out, and the first thing I said was, "John, what the fuck happened to my face?" He looked at me, laughed and said, "Oh, you're awake." That made me even more confused. I was like, "Bro, what do you mean? What happened last night?" And he was like, "Let's just say you should never drink again." I told him, "Yeah, no shit. What did I do? I don't remember a thing." He shook his head and said, "Bro, you got shit-faced and started picking fights with random people." I couldn't believe it. I was like, "No, come on, that's not me. I've never done that in my life." He was like, I know, but when you get alcohol in you, you're a different person. You really shouldn't drink." I sighed and said, "Okay, so what happened? Tell me everything." John started filling me in. He said, "First of all, after that last shot, you stood up on my kitchen table and started giving this speech about how we all need to love each other more. But dude, the way you were saying it made no sense at all. You were slurring your words, stumbling around, but the sentiment was there, I guess." After that, I apparently jumped down off the table, went up to one of the random jock dudes from our old high school, and started going off on him. I was like, Yeah, we need to love each other more, so stop being an asshole to everyone. The guy didn't react though. He could tell I was hammered, and he wasn't, so he just brushed it off. Then I went up to this other guy, someone named Nathan, who I didn't even know, and started picking a fight with him for no reason. John said, "You got in his face and started yelling about how he needed to love people more, and when he told you to back off, you pushed him, and he pushed you back, and well, yeah, he kinda beat the shit out of you." I groaned and said, "Okay, so who is this dude? Is he still here? I want to apologize. I don't want any bad blood." John told me, "Nah man, he left after the fight. We broke it up and kicked him out. We didn't want things escalating any further." I sighed and said, "You should have kicked me out. I was being an idiot." He shook his head and said, "Nah, it's fine. We just put you to bed after that." I asked if there was anything else I needed to know, like if I did anything else stupid. John hesitated and then said, well, the guy who beat you up, he's a teacher now. If that makes it any better." I stared at him, shocked. "That makes it worse. What do you mean he's a teacher?" John said, "Yeah, he's a teacher at our old high school. He got a job there about a year ago. He's one of the younger teachers." So let me get this straight. A teacher from my old high school, probably in his late 20s, beat the shit out of me at John's birthday party. And now he's probably back at the school, telling the story about how he beat up Luna, the guy who always caused trouble and told crazy stories. I could just imagine him going to my old principal and saying, "Hey, remember that Luna kid? Yeah, I gave him what he deserved." Honestly, my principal probably would have been happy about it. I wasn't exactly his favorite student. But yeah, I learned a valuable lesson that night. If I ever drink again, it's going to be in extreme moderation. Alcohol and I just don't mix well, clearly. So, yeah, that's the story of the time I got drunk, picked fights, and got my ass handed to me by a teacher. I hope you guys enjoyed this story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video, and feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you all later. Peace. Alright, what's good guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. Today's story time is unlike any of my others. It's crazy, it's a bit wild, and honestly, it's one of those nights that I look back on and still can't believe happened. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this one. Leave a like if you do, and let's jump into it. So, today's story time takes place like 2 months after my 21st birthday. I was freshly 21, still getting used to the whole being able to go to bars thing and buying alcohol legally. It was all still pretty new to me. If you guys have followed my channel for a while, you probably know I'm not a huge drinker. I've never been super into it, it's just not my thing. So when I turned 21, I didn't have much of a desire to go crazy with alcohol. But of course, every now and then, I'd still go to the bar if my friends invited me, and this night was one of those times. On this night, I had plans to go out with some friends to a bar that was just down the street from me. This specific bar was known for being super popular. Tons of college kids went there, and most of the crowd was in the 21 to 25 range. So I was excited because I hadn't been there before. I'd passed by it a few times, poked my head in, but I never actually went in and partied there. I always heard good things about it, and it looked like a cool place, so I figured it was time to finally check it out. A few hours into the night, my friends came by my house and picked me up. We all drove to the bar together. We even had a designated driver. One of our friends wasn't drinking, so he was our ride for the night. Of course, if you're going out drinking, you should definitely have a designated driver or call an Uber. Don't be stupid about it. But anyway, we had our ride sorted, so we got there safely. Now, when we first got to the bar, it was still pretty dead, like not a lot of people were there yet. It was early and the party hadn't really started. We just went straight to the bar, got our drinks, and started slow. And that was my goal for the night, to take it slow. I didn't want to go too crazy because I didn't have much of a tolerance for alcohol. I knew that if I had 3 or 4 drinks too quickly, I'd be completely wrecked. So I was just chilling, sipping on a beer, and taking it easy. For the first hour, everything was going great, and I stuck to my plan. But then, as the night went on, maybe around hour 2, things started to change. The bar started to fill up. It got super packed and more people were showing up. The vibe was definitely shifting to full-on party mode. My friends started buying me drinks, even though I told them I was trying to take it easy. But they weren't taking no for an answer, so I drank them. I don't remember exactly how many drinks they bought me, but I know that after a while, I started feeling pretty buzzed. I was getting tipsy, and I was like, alright, I need to slow down. No more drinks for now. I told my friends I was taking a break, and they respected it, which was cool of them. Honestly, they didn't have a choice because I wasn't going to drink anymore, regardless of what they said. So during this hour of chill, when I wasn't drinking, this group of guys came into the bar. They immediately came over to where we were sitting at the bar and grabbed the chairs next to us. One of the guys in the group ended up sitting right next to me, and the first thing he did was look over and say, "Hey, how you doing?" I said, "Good man, how about you?" He replied, "Pretty good," and I said, "Sweet, glad to hear." Then he asked, "What's this bar like? Is it fun?" I told him, I've never been here before until now. This is my first time. He said, oh, me too. And I was like, hell yeah, and gave him a high five because, I was a little bit tipsy, and it just felt like the right thing to do at the moment. We kept talking, and pretty quickly into the conversation, I could tell this dude was gay. About halfway through our chat, he mentioned that he was there with his boyfriend and that they'd been together for 2 years. He started telling me all about how they met and their relationship. And let me just say, I don't give a fuck about what anyone does with their life. You want to suck some wiener or some titties? Go for it. I don't care. People who care too much about what others are doing need to take a walk and reevaluate their lives. I don't care. Live your life. So when this guy was telling me all this, I was genuinely happy for him. It was cool hearing his story. He told me about how he met his boyfriend at a rock climbing gym, and it was just a wholesome story. He also mentioned that he used to be in the military. The dude seemed like he'd lived a pretty crazy life, and I was just sitting there, listening to him as he waited for his drink. After a few more minutes, his drink finally arrived. The bar was really busy, so drinks were taking forever. He got his drink, stood up, and said, I'll see you later. Thanks for talking to me. I said, no problem, man. Have a great night. He went off with his friends and, I think, his boyfriend into the crowd to go dance or do whatever. So I'm still sitting there at the bar with my friends, just chilling and taking a break from drinking. Maybe 5 minutes later, my girlfriend walks in. I forgot to mention, but around this time, I was dating someone. We'd been together for a couple of months and things were going really well. I'm not going to say it was super serious because it had only been a couple of months, but I really liked her and she seemed to really like me. When she walked in, I was so happy to see her. It was a total surprise. I had no idea she was coming. Apparently my friends had invited her, which was really cool of them. She ran over, gave me a hug, and I asked her what the fuck she was doing there because I wasn't expecting it at all. She told me that my friends had invited her to come surprise me because they knew I liked her. They were just being good friends, and it was awesome. It made my night. Now, here's where things get a little weird. My friends decided that since my girlfriend had shown up, they wanted to buy us drinks. They figured that now that she was here, I'd probably be willing to take another shot or something. They were right. I didn't want to let my girl drink alone, so I agreed to take a shot with her. And that shot was what pushed me over the edge. Before, I was just tipsy, like a little bit buzzed. But after that shot, I was drunk. Fully drunk. After that, my friends started getting rowdy, cheering and being obnoxious because they were excited to see me drunk. It was a rare occurrence, and they wanted to see just how far they could push it. They were like, yo, Austin, let's go dance. Let's go hit the dance floor. I was like, nah, I'm good. But they kept pushing, saying, come on, dude, this song is your jam. And I remember what song was playing. It was Ransom by Lil Tecca. That song was everywhere at the time and I loved it. I can't lie, it's still a banger. So, with the song playing, my girl there, and all my friends hyping me up, I said, fuck it, let's go. And before I knew it, I was on the dance floor with my friends and my girlfriend, drunkenly dancing like an idiot. We were all just making fools of ourselves, but we were having a blast. While we were on the dance floor, I noticed that the guy I was talking to earlier was standing off to the side with his friends, laughing at us as we danced. He came over to us while I was dancing with my girlfriend and asked, is this your girlfriend? I said, yeah. He said, oh my god, you guys are so cute. He was just being a hype man, hyping us up. He started telling my girlfriend how beautiful she was, and I wasn't even jealous or anything. I knew the dude swung for the other side, so it was all good. Now, here's where the story really takes a turn and gets wild. While I was talking to this guy with my girlfriend, another dude started approaching us. I recognized him because I'd seen him hanging out with the guy I was talking to earlier. He was part of their group. This guy was walking up to us really fast, and he had this look in his eyes that wasn't good. He walked right up to me, locked eyes, and gave me the dirtiest look. Then, without saying a word, he shoved me hard. He pushed me probably 5 or 10 feet back into a table, knocking it over, and I fell down with the table. Before I even had a chance to react, this guy was charging at me, swinging his fists, trying to beat the shit out of me. I was on the ground, trying to block his punches, and there was a whole ass chair on top of me because I'd fallen into the table and chairs. People were screaming, telling him to stop, and it was just chaos. After about 15 seconds, people were able to pull him off of me, and I finally managed to get up. Thankfully, he didn't land many punches. He got me twice. One hit my shoulder, and the other one hit my neck. It wasn't anything serious. But as soon as I stood up, all I wanted to do was charge at this dude and fight back. I was pissed. But I couldn't because, by that point, 2 bouncers, a bartender, and a manager were all surrounding us, keeping us apart. I was yelling, yo, what the fuck? Why would you do that? He was just screaming back, telling me to go fuck myself, calling me a piece of shit and all this nonsense. Meanwhile, the guy who'd been nice to me, the one who was talking to us before, was freaking out. He was trying to calm the guy down, putting his arms around him, and I heard him say, baby, relax. That's when it hit me. This guy who had attacked me was his boyfriend, so now I'm standing there, confused as hell. Why the fuck did this dude's boyfriend just try to beat me up? I yelled, "Why the fuck would you do that?" But he just kept calling me names instead of explaining why he attacked me. The guy who'd been nice to me, let's just call him Mark, finally walked over to me, and my girlfriend, who was trying to calm me down, was right there with me. Mark said, "I'm so sorry. I don't know why he did that. I have no idea what the fuck that was about." I asked, "So that's your boyfriend?" Mark nodded. "Yeah, I'm really sorry." I said, "Look, it's fine. I'm not hurt. But can you ask him why he did that? I need to know." He nodded and walked back over to his boyfriend. I watched as Mark started talking to his boyfriend, and they were kind of mumbling back and forth, but I couldn't hear them. We were pretty far apart at this point. But then I heard Mark yell, "He has a girlfriend, you fucking idiot!" And that's when everything made sense. The guy who attacked me thought I was hitting on his boyfriend. I started laughing because, honestly, it was ridiculous. This guy attacked me because he thought I was trying to pick up his boyfriend when, in reality, I was just talking to him with my girlfriend standing right there. The guy who attacked me looked absolutely defeated after Mark yelled at him. He had the biggest look of regret on his face. He looked over at me and mouthed, "I'm sorry." I kept laughing and he started walking over. The bouncers were trying to stop him, but he said, No, it's fine. I want to apologize." They let him through and he came up to me and he said, "I'm so fucking sorry." I asked, "Dude, what did you think was happening?" He said, "I don't know, I'm just a jealous person. I saw him talking to you and smiling and I thought you were gay." I was like, "Wait, what? Why'd you think that?" He said, "I don't know, I just saw you standing next to your girl, but you guys weren't kissing or holding hands, so I thought maybe you were just friends and you were hitting on my guy." I was like, "No man, not at all. Come on dude, you can't just attack someone because you think that. You should have just asked." He said, "I know, I have a temper." I replied, "Yeah dude, I can fucking tell." And let me just say, this guy was ripped, like he was buff as hell. I had no problem standing up for myself, but I knew if we actually fought, I'd probably lose a few teeth. I was definitely outmatched. Doesn't mean I wouldn't have fought back, but I'm glad it didn't come to that. I'm glad there were bouncers and that we got separated before things got worse. After that, the guy apologized about 15 more times and I said, "It's fine," about 15 times. He had only landed 2 punches and one hit my shoulder and the other hit my neck, so it wasn't anything too serious. I was fine. But if things had gone differently and I had gotten hurt, I might not have been so forgiving. But since it was a misunderstanding and I could tell the guy genuinely felt bad about it, I decided to just let it go. Now, here's where things got even wilder. They actually didn't kick us out of the bar. I thought for sure we were getting thrown out after the fight broke out, but because we made up and everything seemed to cool down, they let us stay. I guess they could tell it wasn't an ongoing issue and that we were fine now, so they just moved on. My friends and my girlfriend were all around me, trying to make sure I was okay, and honestly, I was. I had a couple of bruises, but I was more shocked than anything. I kept saying, "This dude seriously thought I was trying to steal his boyfriend? That's wild." And everyone was laughing about it because, honestly, it was just a crazy misunderstanding. Not long after that, Mark and his boyfriend came back over to us and Mark apologized again. He looked so embarrassed and his boyfriend, the one who swung on me, was just kind of hanging his head in shame. He told me again how sorry he was and said that he shouldn't have jumped to conclusions like that. I told him it was all good and we even ended up talking for a bit after that. It was awkward at first, but the guy was clearly remorseful, and in a weird way it actually ended up being kind of funny. About 30 minutes after we were all talking, I noticed that there was a commotion near the dance floor. I looked over, and sure enough, it was Mark's boyfriend again, but this time he wasn't swinging at me, he was swinging at some other dude. Apparently he saw some guy slip something into a girl's drink, and he lost his shit. I don't know how true it was, but he seemed genuinely upset and was trying to stop the guy. The bouncers quickly intervened and dragged him out of the bar, along with the guy he was fighting. At that point, I figured it was time for me to leave too. Things were getting way too crazy, and I didn't want to be around when the next fight broke out. My girlfriend, my friends and I decided we had seen enough for one night and we wanted to get the hell out of there, so we all left the bar and made our way back to my place. Thankfully, we still had our designated driver, so we didn't have to worry about getting an Uber or anything like that. The drive home was pretty quiet, except for a few moments when I couldn't help but laugh about everything that had happened. The whole thing was just so ridiculous. My friends were all joking around, and one of them said, "Hey Austin, maybe next time don't look so friendly when you're talking to dudes with jealous boyfriends." And we all laughed. Honestly, it was a wild night, but at least I walked away from it mostly unscathed. When we got back to my place, I sat down on the couch with my girlfriend, and she was still a little shaken up by everything. She said, "I really thought that guy was going to hurt you." I hugged her and told her, "Nah, it was just a misunderstanding. I think he's just got a lot of issues." We ended up just cuddling on the couch for the rest of the night, talking about everything, and eventually we fell asleep. The next morning, I woke up and the first thing I did was check myself in the mirror. I had a little bruise on my shoulder and a small one on my neck, but other than that, I was totally fine. My girlfriend made us breakfast and we laughed about everything again. It was one of those stories that I knew I'd be telling for a long time, and honestly, it's still one of the craziest nights I've ever had. And looking back, I think the real lesson here is that you shouldn't jump to conclusions, especially when you're drunk. If Mark's boyfriend had just taken a second to talk to me instead of attacking me, we could have avoided the whole situation. I mean, it's not every day you get attacked because someone thinks you're trying to steal their boyfriend, but it makes for a good story. To this day, I've never seen those two guys again. If I had to guess, they were probably just bar hopping that night, and we just happened to cross paths at the wrong time. I hope they're doing well. I hope Mark's boyfriend has learned to keep his temper in check and doesn't just throw punches over misunderstandings. And I hope they're happy together because, honestly, they seemed like a good couple when they weren't fighting people in bars. Moral of the story, don't assume someone is hitting on your partner just because they're talking to them, especially when they have their girlfriend standing right there. And definitely don't start swinging without knowing the full story. Also, if you're the one in the conversation, maybe be a little more obvious that you're taken so no one gets the wrong idea. But honestly, you never know what's going through someone's head when they're drunk, and that's the crazy part about going out to bars. Anything can happen. And finally, if you're ever at a bar and see someone getting worked up or looking like they're about to start something, just walk away. It's not worth it. I could have gotten seriously hurt that night, and it was all because of a stupid misunderstanding. Luckily, everything ended okay, and I got a pretty funny story out of it. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this story time. If you did, please leave a like. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your own crazy stories in the comments down below, and if you're new here, make sure to subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. So this story time is insane for a lot of reasons, and I've been waiting to tell it for a while now. It's interesting because most of my story times involve me getting hurt, but this time it wasn't me, it was a friend of mine. It's never a good day when anybody gets hurt, and I witnessed it all. It was crazy, so I'm gonna tell you all about it. Okay, today's story takes place in 2017. Now, 2017 was kind of like the era of the vape, in my opinion. I think they started to get really popular in like 2015 or 2016, but my friend group specifically all started vaping hardcore at the beginning of 2017. I think everyone I knew at that point had either a Juul or a box mod. I personally had one, but I didn't really use it because I was never really hooked on nicotine. I smoked cigarettes here and there growing up, and I had a vape, but I would either not hit it because I didn't want to deal with the nicotine, or I'd get juice with no nicotine in it, so it kind of just sat there vacant on my nightstand most of the time. But man, a bunch of my friends, they were hooked on vaping. Like, they would constantly be hitting those things. They'd build their own mods, order custom ones online, and try out different flavors and stuff. Looking back, I can't lie, it was a little bit cringe. Even at the time, I would look at it and think, damn, this is kind of a lot. Not saying it's cringy if you vape, but the way my friends were doing it, damn, it was a little cringy. Anyway, I had this one friend, her name was Sarah. I've been friends with Sarah since I was 12 years old, and we're still friends to this day. For some reason, Sarah was more into vaping than anyone else I knew. She had like 5 different mods and a Juul. It was just kind of an unhealthy obsession at that point. I would always mess with her about it. I'd be like, dude, you're starting a fucking vape collection. At what point is it too much? You've got like 5 box mods, a Juul, and probably some other stuff I don't even know about. Just get one vape and call it a day. Why do you need 6? She would justify it by saying, oh well, this one has this flavor, and that one has that flavor, and this one's smaller, it's the Juul, and this one has a different nicotine content. I was like, yo, alright, fine, you do you. I won't judge, but it's a little bit much. Alright, so one day in early 2017, Sarah and I were hanging out at her house, and she was on her MacBook looking at vapes online. I already thought that buying a vape off the internet was stupid because you can't see it in person, you can't see how it works. And also the site she was on looked so sketchy. It just looked super weird and scam-like. She showed me this vape she was looking at and asked, should I get this one? I was like, you want me to be honest? She said, yeah. So I said, no, you shouldn't get that one. You already have 6. Maybe sell a couple first. She was like, yeah, but this one's the best one. I feel like this could be my main one. She even called it her daily driver. I said, dude, do you? If you want to get it, go for it. All I'm saying is that this site looks sketchy as hell. Don't come crying to me when that thing explodes in your hand. I was joking, okay? I was completely kidding. I didn't actually think it would explode. I just thought the vape looked funny, and I was making a joke. But 2 weeks later, she got the vape, and I was at her house, and she was hitting it, blowing these obnoxiously big clouds in my face, and I'm sitting there, borderline annoyed. But it was working well, and I really thought I had eaten my words. I thought that site wasn't a scam, that they didn't sell cheap, crappy products, and that the vape was actually high quality. Well, about an hour after I got to her house that day, she had been using the vape for about 2 days at that point. We were in her room, listening to music, just talking like we always would. She was hitting her vape pretty much non-stop, and all of a sudden, I started smelling something weird. It smelled like something was burning. I looked at her, and she looked at me, and I said, "Do you smell that?" She said, "Yeah, I think it's my vape." I looked over, and there was smoke coming out of it, out of her hand. I said, "Yo, I think it's malfunctioning or something." She was like, "No, I think I just got some juice stuck where you hold the button down. I think it's just stuck hitting. I think the cotton's burning." I said, "No, that doesn't look like it's vaping. It looks like it's smoking." Then more smoke started coming out, and it was looking more and more concerning. The smell was getting stronger, and it smelled like burnt popcorn. I said, "Yo, put it down." That's all I said because I had a feeling something bad was about to happen. I was like, "Yo, put that down." She goes, "It's fine, look." And she pressed down on the button to show me that it was just stuck. And I kid you not, the thing blows up like a mini grenade in her hand. It was actually so much more powerful than I thought a vape explosion could be. I thought it might spark a little bit or something, but no, this thing legitimately exploded and it flung against the wall. Her hand looked insane. I don't want to get too in detail because it was kind of gruesome, but her hand definitely needed medical attention. It looked charred in some places, and there were definitely open wounds. I'm honestly surprised she didn't get hurt worse. Not saying she wasn't hurt enough, she definitely was, but considering the size of that vape blowing up, I really thought it was going to be a lot worse. Anyway, she starts freaking out, crying and screaming. I'm like, hold on, relax." I grabbed some cold water and started pouring it over her hand. Not even sure if that's what you're supposed to do in that situation, but I know for burns, that's what you're supposed to do, so that's what I did. Her parents ended up rushing into the room, freaking out, asking what happened. We told them, and her dad immediately ran out of the room, came back with a little bath towel, wrapped her hand in it, and started moving her out of the room to take her to the hospital. Her mom ran back in with another towel for me because the vape was still in the corner, smoking. So I ran over to it and beat it with the towel a couple of times. Didn't seem to do much. I grabbed my water bottle and poured some cold water on it. Again, I have no idea if you're supposed to pour water on a vape-induced fire. I guess it wasn't even on fire, just smoking. But I didn't want it to catch on fire. I know with grease fires, adding water makes it worse, so I wasn't sure if this was similar. Either way, I poured water on the vape to stop it from catching fire, and it seemed to work. The smoke stopped, and I heard a sizzling noise, so it seemed like it put something out. Then I threw the towel on it, wrapped it up, and threw it outside in the yard where it couldn't blow up anything else or catch anything else on fire. After that, we got in the car and rushed Sarah to the hospital. When we got there, she ended up needing a few things. I think she got stitches because she had an open wound and they did some sort of burn treatment. It wasn't serious burns, not like she needed skin grafts or anything, but they stitched her up, put some ointment on it, and sent her home with some cream to put on the wound and burns. Overall, she was okay, which was amazing because all I could think about was what would have happened if the vape had blown up in her mouth. If she had been hitting it when it exploded, she could have lost an eye. Or worse. So many things could have happened that were so much worse. Not saying what happened wasn't bad, because it was, but I'm just thankful she didn't have it in her mouth because that could have been a lot worse. I remember sitting in the hospital with her while she was getting stitches. She looked over at me and said, "You were right." I asked, "What do you mean?" She said, "It blew up in my hand." I was like, "What are you talking about?" She said, "You literally said, 'Don't come crying to me when it blows up,' and it did." I was like, "Oh, I did say that." She said, "Yeah," and I apologized. I told her I really didn't think it was actually going to blow up, and she said, "It's okay, I learned my lesson." I felt so bad after that, and now I try not to joke about stuff like that because apparently might actually happen. Anyway, the moral of the story is, don't buy e-cigarettes from sketchy retailers. Honestly, if you're not already vaping, don't start. Don't get hooked on nicotine, that stuff's the devil. In the end, everyone was okay, everything was all good. We went back to Sarah's house after that. The vape was just a charred mess, still sitting in the yard, so her dad disposed of it. We went inside and just had a nice chill night after that and hung out. Oh, I almost forgot to mention, this incident led to Sarah quitting vaping, which was good. She didn't vape at all after this. She never hit one again because she was so afraid it would blow up, and honestly, I don't blame her. I don't think I would either. So yeah, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed the story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video, I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you guys later. Peace. Yo, what's good guys? It's Austin here. Or Luna. Today I've got a story that's been on my mind for a while, but I waited to share it until I was in a safer place both physically and channel-wise. I had to make sure that everything was set before I could tell this one, because the person involved is a bit On the crazy side. I didn't want to risk anything, but now that I'm in my new place, I can finally tell you about the craziest ex I've ever had. Buckle up, because this is one wild ride. So, this story takes place about a year and a half ago. I was dating this girl, and we had been together for about 6 months. Things seemed okay at first, but by the third month, I started seeing red flags. And when I say red flags, I mean big ones. For example, every time I told her I needed to work on a YouTube video, which is my job, she would get mad at me, like I was ignoring her for something unimportant. I remember one time I told her I was going to make a video, and she said, "All you do is sit on your computer and play video games." I tried explaining, "No, I'm making a YouTube video," and she snapped back, "What's the difference?" I said, "The difference is that one is just playing a game and the other is creating content for my audience of 3 million subscribers." And she did not like that. She started yelling, saying I was wasting my time on stupid shit that wasn't important, and even hinted that she'd break up with me if I didn't change. Huge red flag, right? But for some reason, I decided to ignore it. Fast forward to the 6-month mark. She was practically living at my house. She never went home. She would eat, sleep, and do everything at my place. And honestly, I was not feeling it. I thought things were moving way too fast. We'd only been dating for 6 months, and she was already treating my house like it was hers. The worst part was, I never even gave her the green light to move in. She just stayed over a couple of nights and then never left. I didn't say anything because I didn't want to be rude, but it was starting to really bother me. One night we were in bed watching Netflix and I was just about to fall asleep. My eyes were closing, I was exhausted, and then she taps me on the shoulder. She says, "Hey, I want to get a bigger house." Immediately, I was wide awake. I was like, "What?" She said, "I want to move into a bigger place. This place is too small for both of us." I told her, I love my house, and no, it's not. Let me give you guys some context. This house was a 3-bedroom, 3-story house with a storage room that could be converted into another bedroom if needed. It had a living room, kitchen, basement, garage, everything you could need. It was a nice family home, plenty of space for a couple of kids even, and for just me and her, both in our early 20s, it was more than enough. So I told her that, and she got pissed. She said, "Yeah, it might be 3 bedrooms, but all the rooms are yours. It's your bedroom, your office, and a guest room. Why can't we turn the guest room into my room or my office?" And I was just sitting there like, yo, what the fuck? I never even agreed to her moving in, and now she wanted to revamp my house to suit her. So I calmly said, "Listen, in the future, if you want to maybe take the guest room and make it your own space, we can talk about that. But right now, you're not even officially moved in. You're just staying here, and we've never had a real conversation about you actually living here. So, let's take a step back, figure out what we're doing, and then we can talk about the rest." I thought I handled that pretty well. I wasn't mean, I wasn't yelling, I was just being honest. But she freaked out. She started screaming, "Do you even want me here? Do you even want to be with me? I thought this was our place, not just yours." Then she got up, stormed over to the bedroom door, and before she walked out, she picked up my dirty clothes hamper and threw it at me. This thing weighed like 20 pounds, and it hit me right in the head. I couldn't believe it. I jumped out of bed, followed her out of the room, and I was like, "What the fuck is wrong with you? You just threw that at my head. This is how you deal with shit? You throw things at people?" She screamed back, "Oh, like you're not the most selfish person in the world." And I was done. I said, "Get out of my house, right now. It's mine, not yours. I pay for everything, the rent, the utilities, all of it. You don't pay for shit and my name is on everything, so get out." Maybe that was harsh, but she literally threw a fucking hamper at my head. She didn't like that, of course. She said, "How am I supposed to get home? I don't have money for an Uber, I don't even have my house key, I'll be stuck outside all night." I told her, "Fine, you can sleep on the couch, but at 6 in the morning you're out of here." She asked, "Are you breaking up with me?" I said, "I don't know, but stay out here. I don't want anything else thrown at my head." She said she was sorry, but I just went back into my room, locked the door, and tried to sleep. I was pissed. A few hours later, I woke up around 7 in the morning. I went out to the living room to check if she was still there, but she was gone. I thought, okay, maybe she went back to her parents' place. I decided to get an early start on my day, so I went into my office to work on a video. But when I walked in, I realized something. My computer was left on all night. I didn't have it set to go into sleep mode automatically, and I must have forgotten to turn it off. I didn't think much of it at first. I just sat down, started recording, edited a couple of videos, and then went to upload them. That's when I noticed something was off. My YouTube channel was signed out. It usually only signs out if the password gets changed. I tried signing back in, and sure enough, it said, "Your password was changed 2 hours ago." I started panicking. I grabbed my phone to do a password reset, but 2-step verification was disabled. That's when I knew she did something. I called her immediately. She answered, "Hello." I said, I just tried to log into my YouTube channel and it says my password was changed 2 hours ago. I left my computer on all night, so you were the only one who could have done it. Just tell me the truth. Did you do something? And she just starts laughing. This maniacal, evil sounding laugh. She said, yeah, I might have had something to do with that. I couldn't believe it. I said, are you fucking serious? She said, look, I'm not keeping it from you. I just want to have a conversation about our relationship and whether or not you're breaking up with me. After that, maybe you can have your channel back. I was losing my mind at this point. She was holding my channel hostage, everything I'd worked for, everything I cared about. I said, what do you want? She said, I just told you. I want to come over and talk about our relationship. After that, maybe you'll get it back. I said, are you blackmailing me into staying with you? She said, no, I just want to talk. I was like, I don't like this maybe shit. That's my life's work. She said, well, I'm the one with the password, so you're not in a position to make demands. It felt like I was arguing with a supervillain. I said, fine, come over. She said, when? I said, now. 20 minutes later, she showed up. I had to put on the nicest poker face of my life. I wanted to tell her to fuck off, but I couldn't. She had my channel. So she came in and we sat on the couch. I put on the biggest fake smile and said, listen, I've been thinking and you're right. What I said was fucked up. This house is as much yours as it is mine. I really care about you and I don't want to lose what we have. Immediately, a tear rolled down her face. She said, that's all I wanted to hear. Then she gave me a huge hug and pulled out her phone, showing me the new login for my YouTube channel. She had made the password something really ridiculous, but I didn't care. I ran upstairs, reset the password, put two-step verification back on, and made sure everything was locked down. No! She was watching me do all of this, standing in the doorway. Once I was done, I locked my computer, looked at her, and said, we're done. Get the fuck out. The look on her face, pure defeat. She said, what do you mean? I thought we were okay. You just apologized. I said, are you kidding me? I just did what I had to do to get my channel back. Now that I have it, we're done. Get out. She started crying. Can we just talk? I said, no, leave now. If you're not out of here in 10 seconds, I'm calling the cops. She got this furious look on her face, stormed into my bedroom, and came back holding my dirty clothes hamper, the same one she'd thrown at me the night before. She wound up to throw it again, and I just yelled, we're not doing this again. She threw it, but I caught it and tossed it to the side. I screamed, I get the fuck out of my house. And finally, she left. After she was gone, I just sat there on my couch for an hour, listening to music, trying to process what the hell had just happened. I called my friend Christian, and he came over. We talked for a good hour about everything. He couldn't even believe it at first. He knew she could be a little clingy, but he never thought she'd do something like this. After I told him everything, he gave me a hug and said he was sorry I had to go through it. It was just such a surreal experience. I wanted to tell this story right away, but I couldn't. I was worried about what she'd do. If she was crazy enough to do all of that, who knows what else she was capable of. So, I waited until I was in a new place, and now I feel safe enough to tell it. Anyway, that's the story of my crazy ex-girlfriend. One of the wildest stories I think I'll ever tell. Moral of the story, don't move too fast in your relationships. Make sure you know who you're dating before you let them into your life like that. Establish your boundaries early on. Don't let someone walk all over you like I did. I hope you enjoyed this story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video and feel free to leave your own stories in the comments below. Subscribe if you're new and I'll see you all later. Peace. Yo, what's good guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. Today's story time is definitely a crazy one and it's one I thought I'd already told years ago because it was that insane. But I guess I never did, so it's time to talk about it. Also, just a heads up, your boy's been keeping up with the daily uploads at 5 or 5:30 every day, so make sure to check back then for new stories. Anyway, let's get into it because I really want to talk about this one. Today's story takes place in 2018. Back then, I wasn't really up to much besides doing YouTube, I wasn't smoking weed, I wasn't experimenting with psychedelics, none of that. I was pretty much straight-edged, just playing video games, making videos, and hanging out with friends, kind of like I am now. So, on this particular day, I was chilling in my room, not doing much, when my friend Jason hit me up. Now, the thing about Jason, he always needed to be doing something either dangerous, stupid, or just getting high to have fun. It was kind of his thing, and honestly, it always made me a little nervous because every time I hung out with Jason, I ended up doing something either illegal or really dumb. But that day, I was bored and I had nothing else to do, so I said yes. A couple hours later, I was at Jason's house, hanging out in his basement playing Xbox, and sure enough, Jason comes up with this bright idea involving both getting high and something illegal. He looks at me and says, yo, I picked up some acid today, you wanna take some? I was like, I don't know man. Then he hits me with, alright, second question, Do you want to take some and then go explore this abandoned high school? I just stared at him like, Jason, seriously? So, first of all, he asks if I want to do psychedelics. Then, as if that's not enough, he follows it up by asking if I want to break into an abandoned school while tripping. Jason was like, buddy, it isn't breaking in. The door got busted down by someone else, so it's just open now. And he reminded me, we've tripped together before, so what's the difference now? I told him, it's not that I don't want to have fun, it's just that every time I trip now, I end up having a bad experience. Plus, I don't want to mix that with breaking into some sketchy building. He eventually backed off and said, alright, you don't have to, but I'm still gonna do it. I was like, alright, whatever. So later that night, it was around 7 or 8 p.m, another friend of ours came over. We'll call him Eric. So now it's Jason, Eric, and me. We're sitting on Jason's couch and they both decide to take the acid. I was still set on not taking it, but when the time came, the acid was just sitting there on the table, staring at me. They each took 2 tabs, which in my opinion is way too much. No need for that at all. And I'm sitting there, staring at this tab thinking, maybe this time will be different. Maybe I won't have a bad trip. Maybe I'll actually have a good time. So, like an idiot, I decided to do it. I took 1 tab and oh boy, I wish I could go back in time and stop myself because I was in for one of the roughest nights of my life. About 30 or 40 minutes went by and nothing really out of the ordinary was happening. I was just chilling, having a good time. But then, about an hour to an hour and a half in, things started to get really weird. I started seeing visuals, I felt all giggly and jittery, and it was definitely coming on fast and strong. My friends were way deeper into it than I was. They were on another planet at that point. But then something strange started happening. About 2 hours into the trip, I started feeling extremely nauseous. I'd never had that happen before. It felt like I'd swallowed a bowling ball, like I had this giant rock in my stomach. I was feeling so sick, and the room started spinning. It was something I'd never experienced before, and within 10 minutes, I knew I was going to throw up. I had to get to a bathroom ASAP. I ran upstairs to Jason's bathroom, and of course, I ended up puking. I just couldn't hold it in. I threw up for probably 5 minutes straight. After that, I went back downstairs, and my friends were getting ready to go to the abandoned building. I looked at them and said, guys, I can't go. I just threw up. I feel like absolute shit. The room's spinning. I can barely stand up. Jason took one look at me and said, dude, you actually don't look good at all, holy fuck. I was like, yeah, I know, I don't feel good at all. And right after I said that, it was like perfect timing. I started feeling super lightheaded, like I couldn't stand, the room was spinning and I knew I was about to pass out. Before I could even think or say anything else, everything went black and I passed out. I can't tell you what happened right after that because, well, I was unconscious. But I can assume that Jason did the right thing because when I came to about 5 or 10 minutes later, I was being carried up the basement stairs on a stretcher by paramedics, being wheeled out to an ambulance. I remember coming to on that stretcher thinking, fuck. Not only did I pass out and not only did I feel like absolute garbage, but now I was headed to the hospital. So yeah, I got driven to the hospital in the ambulance. Jason rode with me, and when we got there, they brought me into a room and started running all sorts of tests. I had to talk to a doctor and I told him the truth. I said, yeah, I took LSD. They ran blood tests, they did a whole bunch of other stuff, and they even had to do a brain scan because when I passed out, I hit my head on the table. Luckily, I didn't have any serious injuries, just a mild concussion. After running all those tests, they all came back inconclusive. The doctor said they couldn't really find anything specifically wrong with me. He said it was probably a combination of things. First, I was super dehydrated because I hadn't been drinking any water that day. Second, I'd eaten fast food all day, and he thought maybe I had some kind of mild food poisoning. Or third, the acid just triggered a horrible panic attack since I'm already a pretty anxious person. I even asked the doctor if he thought the acid could have been laced, and he said, anything's possible, but based on the tests we're running, there's nothing in your system that we can see that would indicate that. He said it was probably just a combination of factors, anxiety, dehydration, bad food, everything combined. By the way, I'm summarizing this pretty quickly. That whole process took like 6 or 7 hours. It was a long, long night in the hospital, and I did not enjoy it at all. But luckily in the end, I was okay. And I have to give a shout out to Jason and Eric. Even though they were both tripping hard, they actually handled the situation pretty well. Most people on 2 tabs of acid wouldn't know what the hell to do, but they did the right thing. Also, they didn't have any of the symptoms I had, which leads me to believe the acid wasn't laced. They took more than I did, and they were fine. Moral of the story? Don't do what I did in this story time. And if you have a gut feeling, don't go against it. I knew I shouldn't have taken that acid, but I did anyway, and it led to one of the scariest nights of my life. Anyway, that's the story. In the end, I was okay, my friends were okay, and I came out of it with just a mild concussion and a pretty terrifying experience. I hope you guys enjoyed the story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video, I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below, and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Yo, what's good guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. So, judging by the title, I'm sure you can see today's story time is a rather interesting one. Awkward, funny, and very, very LA. So I hope you enjoy it. Leave a like on the video if you do, and let's jump right into today's story time. Today's story starts off during a regular day when I was in LA. This was, I think, my 6th month of living there at this point. I was pretty used to it, you know? I knew the ins and outs, had my friend group, and things were going well. For the first half of my time in LA, I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. Now, if there's one thing I'm sure all of you know about LA, it's that it's kind of weird. There are definitely a lot of unusual things happening compared to most people's hometowns or other parts of the US. You can come across all sorts of bizarre situations, and today was no exception. It all starts off as a normal day in LA. Like I said, I was about 6 months into living there, just chilling in my apartment, working on a YouTube video. As I was finishing up, I got a text from my buddy George. Now, George was one of my closest friends in LA. Super normal dude, actually reminded me a lot of people from back home. He hits me up and goes, "Yo, what are you doing tonight?" I reply, "Nothing much." And then he says, "Wanna come to a party with me? I don't wanna go alone." I was like, "I'm down." So fast forward a couple of hours, it's around 9 or 10 at night, George pulls up to my place and we head to this party together. Now, this was an influencer party. LA has a ton of these. If you're not familiar, an influencer party is basically where YouTubers, TikTokers, Instagram people, music artists, anyone in the social media space gets together and lets their ego talk for 5 hours straight while everyone tries to outclout each other. Honestly, most of these parties are incredibly superficial and kinda cringe. So you might be wondering, Austin, why were you there if they're so cringy? Well, back then, when I was 18 or 19, I thought I was hot shit. I thought going to these parties with people I followed or admired growing up was sick. It took me a while to realize how much of a cringe dork I was for that, but hey, you live, you learn. To be fair, not everyone at these parties is bad. I've met some cool down-to-earth people there too. But I'd say 70–80% of the time, you run into people who are just completely wrapped up in the social media game. Anyway, George and I get to this party, and it's packed. We're talking people everywhere. Within half an hour, it's super crowded, but I'm getting to meet a lot of new faces. Some people I knew from the internet, others I didn't. Things were going pretty well. About an hour into the party, something kinda interesting happens. I see these 4 girls come in with 2 guys, and they look really familiar. You know that feeling when you're sure you've seen someone before, but you can't quite place them? Yeah, that was it. They were definitely influencers or YouTubers, had that look. I didn't say anything to them though, just made a mental note that they must be pretty well known. Fast forward about an hour and a half into the party, and at this point, George and I are on the 4th floor of this beautiful house, taking shots, hanging out, talking with friends, just vibing. And your boy starts needing to pee, like bad. So I walk up to the dude throwing the party and ask, "Yo, where's your bathroom?" He tells me it's on the 3rd floor to the left. Simple enough, right? So I head down to the 3rd floor, looking for this bathroom. I'm opening doors, but they're all guest bedrooms, or some other random rooms. I'm thinking, man, this house is insane. I mean, every door I open just leads to another massive bedroom, and none of them are bathrooms. And each room is empty, bed made, no one in sight. Finally, I get to the last door on the 3rd floor, and the light is on. I can see it through the crack in the door, so I figure it's probably the bathroom. I knock on the door, no response. I slowly turn the knob, peek inside, and, well, it's not a bathroom. It's another bedroom, except this one isn't empty. Remember those 4 girls and 2 guys I mentioned earlier? Yeah, it's them, and they're not just hanging out in there. They're really hanging out, in the middle of a full-on threesome. 2 girls, 1 guy, no clothes, and to top it off, they're filming it. The guy had his phone propped up on one of those vlogger gimbal things, recording everything. So of course, I do what any sane person would do. I turn around, shut the door as fast as I can, and I start power walking back up to the 4th floor. I did not want to be in that situation, but as I'm walking up the stairs, it all clicks. It hits me. I know why those people look so familiar. They weren't just influencers, they were adult influencers. You know what I mean? They were in that industry and they were filming content for the hub. And all I could think was, man, I really hope they didn't have other cameras in there filming from different angles, because if I end up in the background of one of those videos, that's just next level awkward. Can you imagine scrolling through and there's my dumbass in the corner of the screen, peeking in, realizing I shouldn't be there? Yeah, no thanks. Anyway, I'm heading back up the stairs, just trying to forget what I saw and holding my pee until I find another bathroom. That's when I hear someone behind me. Yo, bro! I turn around and it's one of the dudes from that room. He doesn't have a shirt on, just a towel wrapped around him, half naked. He goes, "Did you just try to open that door back there?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, my bad, man. I was just looking for the bathroom. The dude upstairs said it was on this floor to the left, and I must have opened the wrong door. I knocked, but I don't think you guys heard." He's surprisingly chill about it, like, "Nah, no worries at all. Actually, you had the right room. The bathroom's attached to that bedroom. We were just kinda in your way. My bad, you can come use it if you want." At first, I'm like, "Nah, dude, it's cool. I'll find another one." But he insists, "No, come on, it's fine." So, he leads me back into the room. Keep in mind, everyone is still very much not dressed. They're all just chilling on the bed, taking a break, I guess. They see us come in and they're all laughing, obviously knowing I walked in on them earlier. I'm just like, "Hey everyone." One of the girls smiles and goes, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm like, "Pretty good. Sorry for interrupting the vid." She just laughs and says, "Nah, it's all good. We needed a break anyway." So, the dude leads me to the bathroom, I do my thing, wash my hands, and when I come back out, they're all still there, getting ready to start filming again. I'm like, "Alright, have a great night everyone." And the guy who helped me find the bathroom says, "Yo, I gotta say, your voice sounds so familiar." I'm like, "Oh, does it?" He's like, "Yeah, dude, are you a YouTuber or something? I swear I know you from somewhere." I'm like, "Yeah, I do YouTube." He's like, "Wait, Luna?" And I'm like, "That's me." He's like, "No way, bro. I grew up watching you. This is crazy." And I'm like, "Damn, how old are you?" He's like, 19. Keep in mind, this dude was older than me, but I guess he still grew up watching my content. Then one of the girls speaks up, "Oh, you do YouTube? What's your channel?" I tell her, "Luna or Austin FFA." She looks me up and goes, "Oh, I've seen you before." And I'm like, "Cool, cool." So, here I am in this incredibly awkward situation. These people are completely naked, I'm being recognized by one of them, and the other one knows who I am too. It's surreal. After a bit more small talk, they're like, "Alright, well, we should probably get back to filming." I'm like, "Yeah, I'll let you guys do your thing." Then the dude says, "Yo, when I was watching your videos back in the day, that whole Luna watches porn meme was going around in the comments. Now you can really say you've watched it." I start dying laughing, and so does he. Some of the other people in the room laugh too, but they clearly have no idea what he's talking about. But I did, and I'm sure a lot of you do too. Anyway, after that, I dapped him up, immediately regretted it because, you know, germs, and ran upstairs to wash my hands again. Then I told George and my other friends what just happened, and they were shocked. It was hilarious. Definitely one of the funniest, craziest party experiences I've ever had, and it pretty much sums up my experience in LA. You just never know what you're gonna get in that city. So, yeah, moral of the story, always knock before you enter a room, maybe knock twice, honestly. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed the story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video, I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments below, and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace. Yo, what's good guys, it's Austin here, or Luna. So today's story time is a pretty crazy one of those that makes you just go, did that really just happen? I hope you enjoy it. Leave a like on the video if you do, and let's jump right into today's story. So, today's story time is about the time I caught my teacher smoking, and not just any smoking, but literally smoking in the school bathroom. Yeah, let's get into it. This all starts off as a regular day back in 8th grade. 8th grade was one of those years I actually enjoyed. It was my last year of middle school, and middle school for me was honestly a lot of fun. I mean, grades didn't matter as much as high school did. At least I don't think they did. I wasn't too stressed about it, you know? This isn't me saying that if you're in middle school, you should just completely slack off, but hey, compared to high school, it was a lot more relaxed. Enjoy those middle school years while you got them. Anyway, this all starts off as a regular day in 8th grade. I jumped out of bed super late, the kind of late where you can literally feel the panic set in. The bus was about to be at my house any minute and I had to get ready fast. So, I ran into the bathroom, brushed my teeth as quickly as I could, ran back into the kitchen, grabbed a Pop-Tart and ran into my room to throw on whatever clothes I could find. I was biting into that Pop-Tart while getting dressed, but because I just brushed my teeth, it tasted like absolute crap. It was one of those wild berry flavors, which by the way, best flavor, no debate, but mixed with toothpaste? Nah, not it. After that, I grabbed my backpack, ran out the front door, and somehow made it onto the bus just as it pulled up. I was on my way to school. The first half of the day went by pretty normally, nothing really out of the ordinary, just your average school day. And then it was time for ELA, English Language Arts. I grabbed my stuff from my locker, went to my ELA class, and sat down in the very back left corner. Now, usually this class was super boring, but on this day, I was actually interested. We were reading a book, and it was honestly a good story, one of those rare times where I actually wanted to keep reading. So, there I was, chilling, having a good class for once, and then about halfway through, I felt it. That all too familiar urge to pee. I had chugged way too much Gatorade during the last period, so I got up and asked my teacher, "Hey, can I go to the bathroom?" She said, "Sure, but hurry back." I left the classroom and walked down the hallway to the closest bathroom. As soon as I walked in, something felt off. It smelled like someone was in there ripping an entire pack of cigarettes. I was like, okay, weird, but whatever. I walked over to the sink, checked myself out in the mirror, made sure my hair was at least halfway decent, and then walked over to one of the bathroom stalls because, well, I had to pee. Now, usually I would knock before opening a stall door, but this one was already cracked open, which usually means it's not locked. So, I just swung it open, ready to do my thing, and there she was, my math teacher, in the bathroom stall, cigarette hanging out of her mouth, staring at me like a deer caught in headlights. She looked horrified, like she just got caught committing the worst crime in history. I instantly jumped back, slammed the stall door shut, and fast walked right out of that bathroom. I was like, nope, not dealing with that. I went to another bathroom down the hallway instead and used one of the urinals. No more surprises for me, thanks. While I was doing my business, I couldn't stop thinking, what the hell just happened? Why was she in the student bathroom? There are literally staff bathrooms upstairs. Why couldn't she just use one of those? But I guess that cigarette just couldn't wait. After I finished, I went back to my ELA class, sat down, and tried to act like nothing happened. I went back to reading, trying to get back into the story. Then, not even 5 minutes later, I hear a knock on the classroom door. I look up, and there she is, my math teacher. She opens the door and she goes, "Hey, can I borrow Austin real quick? I need to talk to him about something." My ELA teacher says, "Sure, go ahead." So, I get up, grab my stuff, and walk out into the hallway with her, and she's like, "Hey," and I'm like, "Hi." And bro, she still reeked of cigarettes. Like, she just smoked, and she's here trying to have this serious conversation with me. I was honestly shocked she even came to get me right after. I thought she would just let it go or talk to me about it later in math class, but nah, here we were. She says, "Okay, I need to talk to you about what just happened in the bathroom." I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "First of all, there's no excuse for what I was doing. It was completely inappropriate, and I'm so sorry." I was like, "It's okay, it's fine." And she's like, "No, it's really not fine. I could have gone outside to my car. I could have waited until school was over. There's no excuse for me to be doing that in the school. That's just ridiculous. Also, I'm sorry I was in the boys' bathroom. The girls' one was closed." And then it hit me. She was in the boys' bathroom, which made the whole situation even weirder. I'm like, holy crap. She could have gone to the girls' bathroom down the hall, the teacher's bathroom, or, better yet, just not smoked at all. But I didn't say any of that. I just nodded and said, "It's okay, it's fine." She kept apologizing, and eventually she said, "If you want to tell the principal, I understand." I told her, "Honestly, you've always been nice to me, so I'm not going to tell on you. But, maybe don't do that again." She laughed nervously and said, "Trust me, I won't." So, I went back to class and just tried to get back to normal. For the next week, everything seemed fine. But then, about a month later, I went to math class and she wasn't there. I thought, maybe she's just sick. But then she wasn't there the next day or the day after that. We just had this long-term sub who clearly had no idea what was going on. Finally, I asked the principal, "Hey, what happened to my math teacher?" She just looked at me and said, "Yeah, you could say she's not coming back." I'm like, "Why? What happened?" She wouldn't tell me, so I asked, "Does it have to do with smoking in the bathroom?" And her face just went pale. She goes, "How the hell did you know that?" I told her, maybe because I caught her doing it." She was shocked. She said, "Why didn't you tell anyone?" And I just shrugged. I felt bad. I thought she wouldn't do it again. And the principal goes, "Yeah, well, she did." So, yeah, that's how my math teacher got fired for smoking in the boys' bathroom. Moral of the story? Don't rip cigs in the school bathroom. Not a good idea. Actually, don't smoke at all, but definitely not in school. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace. Yo, what's good, guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. So, after talking with my friends the other day, I realized there's a story I somehow never told on here. I don't know how it slipped through the cracks, but we're about to fix that. My friends couldn't believe I'd never shared this one, and after thinking it over, neither could I. This is one of those classic peak dumbass Luna stories that just screams 2015 vibes. So, here we are. Buckle up, because today's story is about the time I tripped absolute balls on a school bus. Yeah, it's as ridiculous as it sounds. So, this all takes place during my last year of high school, right at the beginning of the year. I was just starting out, and honestly, I was at my peak dumbass level. Like, I had YouTube going well for me and a solid future ahead, but for some reason, I was just on my reckless shit. You know how it is. Anyway, I woke up that day like it was any other day, rolled out of bed, scarfed down a Pop Tart, didn't have time for anything else, and rushed to get ready. Then, I jumped on the bus to head to school. Now, I don't know if you guys had the same setup, but in my high school, the morning bus was different from the bus that took me home. It used to be the same bus both ways, with the same kids, but for whatever reason, once high school hit, they switched it up. My morning bus was chill. It was full of quiet kids, all keeping to themselves, listening to music, not bothering anyone. But my afternoon bus, that was an entirely different story. The kids on that bus were fucking demons. They'd jump from seat to seat, smack their heads against the ceiling when we hit bumps, smoke weed or cigarettes in the back, and the bus driver wouldn't give a single fuck. He just let it all happen. And honestly, that chaos was my kind of vibe back then. I fit right in with that crowd. Within the first week, I was good friends with everyone on that bus. Back then, I was as much of a dumbass as everyone else, and when I heard you could do whatever the hell you wanted, smoke weed, move around, talk to everyone, I thought, this is the shit. I couldn't wait for that bus ride home every day. Now, I'm gonna sound like a bit of a boomer here, but seriously, wear your damn seatbelt on the bus. I'm lucky I didn't snap my neck with the way we'd hit speed bumps, and I'd be flying out of my seat. But anyway, back to the story. This was just like any other school day. Woke up, got ready, went to school. The morning was normal, nothing out of the ordinary, but then we got to my last period of the day, which was study hall. Study hall was basically just a period where we did nothing. Some kids did homework, but me, nah. I was scrolling Twitter, thinking about what time I wanted to upload my video that day, listening to music, just killing time. I had this friend who sat a couple tables down from me in study hall. His name was Harry, and he rode the same bus home as me. Now, Harry was probably the craziest kid on that whole damn bus. He didn't give a single fuck about anything. During study hall, he kept looking over at me, smiling, which was weird as hell. I couldn't tell if he had something devious planned or if he had a crush on me. So I got up, walked over to his table and whispered, "Yo, Harry, why do you keep staring at me like you wanna fuck me? What's up?" He was like, "Oh, fuck off, dude, no. I got something in my backpack I wanna tell you about." I was like, "You could have just texted me instead of staring at me for 10 minutes, dude." And he goes, "Whatever, I've got salvia." If you don't know what salvia is, it's this substance you can smoke, and it makes you trip balls for a short time. But the thing is, those trips are usually fucking horrible. It's the kind of shit that makes people jump out of windows, not a good time. And it's pretty bad for you, which is why it got made illegal in my state not long after this. So, when Harry told me he had salvia, my first reaction was like, "Why?" And he said, "Because I want to trip balls on the way home." I was like, "Wait, on the way home, you're gonna do it on the bus?" He goes, "Yeah, man, you want to do it with us?" I was like, "Who's us?" He named off 4 other kids who were also down to do this stupid shit on the bus. I told him, "Dude, just wait 10 minutes and do it at home. Get everyone over to your house." He said, "Nah, they live too far away. We can't walk or bike there. We're just gonna do it on the bus." I was like, "Bro, what if the trip doesn't wear off by the time you're home? You're gonna be a vegetable in the back seat." He goes, "Nah, don't scare me like that. It'll be fine. It only lasts 5 minutes. My stop's 15 minutes from the school. It'll be fine." So I said, "Alright man, if you say so." Then he asked if I was down and I was like, "Probably not, but maybe." Fast forward 30 minutes, the bell rings, school lets out and we all head to the buses. I get on the bus, sit in the back, and Harry sits across from me. 10 minutes later, everyone else is on and we start driving away from the school. Immediately, Harry pulls out his backpack, grabs a little bong and starts packing the salvia. Everyone crowds around and I'm sitting there, debating whether or not I want to do this. I'd done it before and it was a horrible trip, but I thought, maybe this time will be different. I don't know why I thought smoking that shit on the school bus would make it better, but for some reason, I convinced myself it would. I saw Harry take a rip, then another friend, and they were both okay, giggling and having fun. So I thought, fuck it, my turn. I took a rip of that shit without a second thought. The minute I exhaled, I felt like my entire body was disintegrating, like I was literally fading away, Thanos snap style. It was some wild endgame shit. But then I told myself, nah, you're not disintegrating, relax, and everything came back together. The pieces just reassembled and I was like, okay, I'm fine. But then, as I looked around, I still knew I was on the school bus, but everything looked different. The whole bus turned into this bright, fiery orange and red, like a fucking sun. I know that sounds insane, but that's what the trip was. We were sitting in the middle of a giant sun, still in our bus seats, but everything was on fire. One half of me was terrified because it felt like I was sitting in a ball of flames, but the other half of me knew I was just tripping and tried to bring myself back to reality. It was like I was having half a bad trip and half an okay trip, constantly telling myself, "You're not gonna die, it's just a bus, not a ball of fire." Eventually, it started wearing off. I came back to reality, probably 5 or 10 minutes later. I was the last one to come out of it because I'd smoked last. When I came back, everyone was staring at me, smiling. I looked at them and asked, "How were your trips?" They said, "Good. How was yours?" And I said, "Good. Why?" One of them said, "Dude, you look like you just saw a fucking demon or something." I was like, "What?" He said, "Yeah, your eyes were wide open the whole time." Another friend chimed in, "Dude, you didn't blink once. I swear your eyes were bloodshot." I didn't even notice, but apparently I looked fucked up. After that, we decided not to do anymore. We all realized that maybe this wasn't something we should casually fuck with. Harry put the bong away, and we just rode the rest of the way home like normal. I was actually the last stop on the bus, so I had plenty of time to come down, think about what had just happened, and process it all. By the time I got home, I jumped on Xbox and told all my friends. They didn't believe me, and honestly, I don't blame them. It sounds insane. Looking back, the only thing I can think about is how fucking insane my friends were back then, and how careless my bus driver was. That dude would let us do anything, smoke cigarettes, weed, salvia, jump around like maniacs. He'd look back, see us acting like complete idiots, and just go, and keep driving. I don't remember his name, but he gave absolutely zero fucks. Moral of the story is, don't do any of the shit I talked about here. I was a big dummy back then, and you definitely don't want to end up in a situation like that. And if any of you are bus drivers out there, please don't be like my old one. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed the story time. If you did, please leave a like, drop a comment with your own stories, and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace. So, a lot of the time when I make these videos and tell these stories, I always get comments like, "Dude, Luna's got the biggest set of plot armor ever. You've got such plot armor." And, there are definitely a lot of stories where that seems to be the case. I'm not gonna lie, but there are also plenty where I don't have any plot armor at all. I can't always control the outcome of how screwed or unscrewed I am in these situations. I mean, sometimes I could have controlled it if I didn't get myself into the situation in the first place, but hey, that's beside the point. Today's story is definitely one of those where I'll probably be getting comments saying, "Dude, the plot armor is insane." This story takes place back in 2015. At this point, I was a teenager, chilling with my friends almost every day after school, or on days we decided to skip school. Around this time, life was pretty good. My YouTube channel was starting to take off, I had a solid group of friends, and I was nearing the end of school, which felt pretty good. I was just enjoying life. This all starts off like any other normal day back then. I woke up pretty late. It was the weekend, so none of my friends or I had school that day. I got up, took my time getting out of bed, took a shower, and had breakfast with my family. While I was at the table, my mom asked, "Do you have any plans today? Want to hang out with anyone?" I shrugged and said, "Nah, I'm just hanging out here." But right after I said that, I got a text from my friend Jeremy. It said, "Yo, me, Eric, Jason, and Josh are all going to the mall. You're welcome to join us." They were inviting me out to the mall, and I wanted to go. I turned to my mom and said, "Actually, my friends just invited me to the mall." She nodded and asked, "Which friends?" I told her, and she was like, "Yeah, that's fine. Just let me know what time you're leaving, and I'll let you know when to be back." I said, "Alright, sounds good." Around this time, I was on thin ice with my mom. I had just gotten off being grounded for some other dumb shit, so she was being a little strict. Normally, she didn't give me a curfew if it was a weekend, but that day I had one. About 10 minutes later, Jeremy texted me saying they wanted to meet up at the mall around 4 How. I went to tell my mom, "Yeah, I'm heading there at 4 How." She asked if I needed a ride, and I said, "Yeah, that'd be great." Usually I just walked, but a ride is always better. She agreed and said she'd drop me off at 4 House, and I had to be back by 8 bro. I was like, "Alright, fair enough." So, 4 rolls around, and I hop in the car with my mom. She drops me off at the mall, and I meet up with my friends in the food court. Everything started off like a normal mall hangout. Usually when we went to the mall, we'd just walk around aimlessly, looking at stuff we couldn't afford because we were broke teenagers. We'd scrape enough money together to grab some Taco Bell or something at the food court, and that was usually the extent of our mall trips. This day was no different. We were walking around, going through stores, just hanging out. After about an hour, one of my friends, out of nowhere, goes, "Yo, anyone down to smoke?" He was talking about weed, and at the time, I was definitely in my stoner phase, listening to a bunch of Kid Cudi and Wiz Khalifa. So, of course, I was like, "Yeah man, I'm down." Everyone else agreed too, so we decided to head out to smoke. Across the street from the mall was this park. It had two playgrounds, one that was still in use and another that was old, abandoned, and pretty much falling apart. We decided to head to the abandoned one because no one was ever over there, which meant no one would bother us or call the cops. We got to the old playground and it was just us, completely deserted. We started smoking and for the first 10-20 minutes, everything was normal. My friend was being super generous, letting us use his lighter, his bowl, his weed, just being a good dude. After about 25 minutes, I was definitely feeling it. I wasn't completely gone, but I was a little cooked and everyone else was too. We finished smoking and everything seemed fine. Smoking wasn't the problem. We didn't get caught, there were no issues. It was after we finished when things started to go wrong. We were just sitting there on this abandoned playground, talking shit. We were talking about people from school, video games, music, just being typical teenagers. At one point, we were ranking the top 5 rappers at the time. That was around the era when a bunch of new rappers were blowing up, and I had one friend trying to convince me that Macklemore was the best rapper of all time. I was like, bro, no. I like some of his songs, but best of all time? Nah. While we were talking, I noticed this guy in the distance. There was a trail that ran along the edge of the park, and I saw this guy walking along it. He looked like he was in his late 30s or early 40s, wearing athletic clothes, with earbuds in. At first glance, I thought nothing of it. Just some dude out for a walk, right? But as he got closer, I could tell something was off. He looked stressed, like he was arguing with someone over the phone. He was yelling, but there was no one around, so I figured he was talking through his earbuds. One of my friends noticed him too and joked, "Dude, that guy looks like he needs a blunt." I laughed and agreed, "Yeah, he looks like he's having a rough day." Then my friend, being the dumbass that he is, turned to me and said, "Yo, Austin, what are the odds you'll walk up to him and offer to sell him some weed to calm him down?" If you've never played What Are the Odds, it's basically a dare game. Someone says, "What are the odds you'll do?" Insert ridiculous thing. And you pick a number. If they guess the same number as you, you have to do it. So I said, 1 in 100, because I figured there was no way he'd guess it. But of course my friend goes, 3, 2, 1, and we both say, 73. I was like, fuck. All my friends started losing it, hyping it up like, yo, you have to do it now. So I was like, alright, fine. Fuck it. I'll do it. I got up and started walking towards this guy, already regretting it. He looked pissed off enough as it was, and the last thing he probably needed was some random stoned teenager walking up to him. But I went through with it anyway. I walked up to him and he took one of his earbuds out and looked at me like, "Can I help you?" I awkwardly said, "Hey man, you look stressed. Wanna buy some weed?" He looked at me like I had just asked the dumbest question in the world and said, "What?" I repeated, "You look stressed." He stared at me, then said, "Yeah, I look stressed and you wanna sell me some pot?" He looked pissed and I started getting nervous. He goes, "Let's see the weed. I'll buy some." "Yeah, I'm stressed, you're right." But he said it in such a sarcastic way, like he was definitely not serious. I panicked and said, "Oh, never mind, have a good day." He goes, No, show me the weed. I wanna buy some. How much you got?" I stammered, It's not mine." I quickly turned and walked back to my friends, telling them, "Guys, I think he wants to buy some, but I can't tell. He's mad as fuck." My friend, the one with the weed, goes, "Are you serious?" Before I could answer, we heard footsteps behind us. The guy had followed me back to the group. He walked up and said, "Alright, where's the weed? I'm trying to buy some." He still sounded sarcastic and annoyed, but my friend decided to go for it. He opened his backpack and pulled out the bag of weed, just a dub, like $20 worth. The guy looked at it and asked, "Can I see it?" My friend handed it over and the dude immediately put it in his back pocket and said, "You guys are real fucking stupid, you know that? You should be ashamed." We all just stared at him, confused as hell. Then he said, "You just gave weed to an officer of the law." He pulled out a badge and my stomach dropped. I thought, oh fuck, we're all going to jail. He looked at us and said, "Alright, let me see some ID. How old are you guys?" None of us had real IDs, just school IDs, but we handed them over. He asked how old we were and we told him. Most of us were 16, with one friend who was 17. He sighed and said, "Listen, I have more important things to be doing than dealing with this right now. I'm going to tell you something and I want you to listen very carefully. Number 1, leave this park immediately and go home. Number 2, never come back here to smoke weed again. Number 3, I don't want to see you smoking weed in public again. If I do, it won't end the way it did today. And number 4, stop smoking weed, period. Do I make myself clear?" We all nodded and mumbled, Yeah, for sure." He said, "Have a good one," and walked away, still with our weed in his pocket. He didn't search us or anything, which was lucky because my friend still had the bowl in his backpack. It was weird, honestly. If I had to guess, this guy wasn't even on duty. He looked like he was just out for a walk and we happened to cross his path. He had his badge, but it didn't seem like he was working. I don't know, maybe he was undercover, but either way, we got lucky as hell. After he left, we all just stood there, unsure what to do. We couldn't go home yet, but we definitely didn't want to stay at the park. So, we decided to walk to a Walmart a couple of miles away and just hang out there for a while. We walked up and down the aisles doing nothing for about an hour until I finally decided to call my mom to come pick me up. Everyone else did the same, either got a ride or walked home. When I got home, I jumped on Xbox with my friends and whispered into my mic, "Yo, the craziest shit just happened." I told him the whole story, still in disbelief. I mean, it's not every day that you accidentally try to sell weed to an undercover cop and somehow get away with it. We got off easy, especially considering how strict things were with weed back then. It was illegal pretty much everywhere, so this could have ended way worse. So yeah, moral of the story, don't be like young Luna, don't do dumb shit like this, it's not worth it. And that's the story of how I thought I was about to sell weed to an undercover cop, and he tricked us hard. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if that dude went home and smoked it himself. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for listening. Yo, what's good guys? Austin here, or Luna. Today, I've got a pretty crazy story for you. Definitely not one of my proudest moments, but it's a wild one. If you enjoy this story time, leave a like on the video, and let's get into it. So, today's story takes place when I was 18 years old, about a month after I turned 18. I was renting an Airbnb in my hometown because I wasn't quite ready to move out yet, but I wanted some me time. I rented my own Airbnb for a couple of weeks, just 10 minutes away from where my mom lived. I moved my setup there, brought my stuff over, and just wanted to chill for 2 weeks. Kind of feel out what it was like to live on my own for the first time. While I was staying there, I wasn't really alone much at all. I pretty much invited friends over every single day. We'd hang out, order food, and honestly just trash the place. It was a bunch of 18-year-olds being 18-year-olds. You know what I mean? Anyway, this all starts off on the 4th day of me living there. It was my 4th day in the Airbnb. I woke up in the morning, 2 of my friends had spent the night and were in the guest room. We all woke up around the same time, went downstairs and made breakfast. While we were eating, I got a call from the Airbnb owner. I thought, okay, what could this be about? Am I in trouble or something? I answered the phone and the owner said, "Austin, is this you?" I replied, "Yep, this is Austin." He said, "Hey, I forgot to tell you when I checked you into the Airbnb, the basement has a security camera set up. If you ever need to use the security cameras, they're downstairs." I said, "Oh, I had no idea. I didn't even know there was a basement." He continued, "Yeah, there's a bunch of monitors down there that show different camera angles, front of the house, sides, backyard. There's also a laundry machine if you need to do laundry." I replied, "Alright, cool, good to know." He asked if everything was going well, and I said it was. Then we hung up. After that call, I went downstairs to check it out. He wasn't kidding. There were 5 monitors showing different camera angles around the house, giving a full 360-degree view. It was good to know in case something happened, but I figured I wouldn't need to use them much, except maybe for laundry. So I went back upstairs and hung out for a bit before my friends and I decided to head to the mall. We spent most of the day out of the house. Now, here's where things get interesting. About 2 hours after we left the house, we were at the mall getting lunch. While we were eating, I got a text from the Airbnb owner saying, "Hey, call me ASAP." Before I could even respond, he sent another text, "Emergency." I immediately called him and he picked up, sounding really worried. He asked, "Austin, are you at the house right now?" I said, "No, we're out getting food." He let out a sigh of relief and said, "Oh, thank fuck, someone broke in." I was stunned. "What?" He continued. "Yeah, someone's in the house right now. Is anyone home?" I told him, "No, we're all out." He said, "Alright, well, the cops are on their way. I got a notification on my phone that someone was at the door, and then I saw them on the cameras breaking in." Apparently the guy had an app on his phone to check the cameras, and he saw someone breaking in through the front window. He called the cops right away, then called me. He told me not to go back to the house until the cops arrived, and to head back in about 10-15 minutes. So that's what we did. We finished our food, got in the car, and drove back to the Airbnb. When we got there, there were about 10 cops outside. Absolute chaos. We got out of the car and one of the cops came up to us and asked, "You guys must be the guests?" We said yes, and he asked, "Which one of you is Austin?" I said, "That's me." He asked if it was just my stuff inside or if my friends had belongings in there too. I told him my friends had some clothes inside, but I had more valuable stuff, my PC, 2 monitors, and some other things, probably worth around 3 or 4 grand. The cop said, "Alright, we'll take a walk inside together. You can look around and let us know if anything's missing." Just as I was about to head inside, the Airbnb owner pulled up. He lived about 30 minutes away, so he arrived a bit after us. He spoke to the cops, and then we all went in together to assess the situation. I couldn't believe my eyes when we walked in. Nothing was stolen. My PC, my monitors, the TV, everything was still there. My clothes, my friend's clothes, even my friend's necklace that was left on the counter, all untouched. The only thing this thief took was an old chandelier from the garage. It was dusty, broken, and apparently worth nothing, fake diamonds and all, according to the owner. It was the weirdest thing. The thief didn't take the TV, didn't take anything valuable, just that chandelier. We figured it was probably because most of the valuable stuff was too bulky to carry on foot. Even if he had taken the TV, it would have been super obvious to any cops driving by. Some guy running down the street with a giant flat screen would be pretty suspicious. I remembered the security cameras, so I asked the owner and the cops if we could check them. The cops said they had already seen the footage, but they took us downstairs to watch it again. The footage showed the guy opening the front window, climbing in, walking around for a bit, and then leaving with the chandelier. It was ridiculous. He was clearly not a good thief. The cops never caught him, so I guess he got away with it. Oh, and I should mention, I didn't leave that window unlocked. The window lock was broken. The owner said he was trying to get it fixed, but it was just bad timing. Either way, the thief got away with just a chandelier, and that was it. They never found him. He kinda looked homeless, so my guess is he probably took it to a pawn shop and got next to nothing for it. Maybe bought some food or something. In the end, everything worked out. No one was hurt, nothing valuable was taken, and the Airbnb owner felt so bad that he let me stay for free for the rest of the time I had booked. He didn't have to do that. He was the one who lost something, but I think he felt bad that we got so scared, so he cut us a deal. Anyway, that's the story. Moral of the story, lock your doors, lock your windows, and don't leave valuable shit lying around. I hope you guys enjoyed the story time. If you did, leave a like on the video. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace. Yo, what's good guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. This is one of my all-time favorite stories to tell, probably ever. I actually thought I told this one years ago when I first started my channel, but I guess I didn't, and I'm kinda glad. Back then, I was a bit of a squeaker, or like, hey what's up guys, it's Austin here. And I'm glad I'm older now, able to tell the story with more detail because back then, I sucked at telling stories. So, yeah, let's get into one of my favorite story times ever. Before we start real quick, I dropped an album not long ago and haven't been promoting it much lately, so if you haven't heard my music, go check out the new album. I think it's pretty sick. Anyway, let's jump into it. Today's story takes place when I was 15 years old. Yeah, very young and very stupid. Back then, I was probably the dumbest I've ever been in my life. I really only did 3 things: hang out with my friends as much as I could, play as much Xbox 360 as possible, and smoke a lot of weed for a 15-year-old. I used to argue with everyone who told me it was a bad idea, saying, nah, it's fine. But looking back, a lot of them were probably right. At 15, you're still developing, and I smoked so much that I started developing crazy panic attacks and anxiety. From the day of my first panic attack to now, I still deal with them. I think if I just waited a few more years, maybe until I was 18, I wouldn't have had as much anxiety. But that's beside the point. Can't change the past, just giving you some insight on my experience and maybe what not to do. Anyway, yeah, I really only did those 3 things: smoke, play video games, and hang out with friends. I was also definitely disobeying my parents a lot back then. I was kind of a little shit. One Thursday night in January, it was freezing cold, like 25 degrees, and I was sitting in my room watching Jersey Shore. It was about 1:00 in the morning, and I did not want to go to school the next day. On top of that, I had insomnia like I did most nights, so I couldn't sleep. I was sitting there, bored out of my mind and not tired at all, so I decided to text one of my friends who was also kind of a 15-year-old little shit like me. Let's call him John. I hit up John and said, "Yo, are you awake?" He replied, "Yeah, what's up?" I said, "Dude, I'm so fucking bored. Want to hang out." Keep in mind, it's 1 AM on a Thursday, a school night. John lived like 2 blocks away, so I could walk to his house. He said, "Dude, it's 1 AM on a Thursday." I said, "Yeah, so what? That's never stopped you before. We've hung out later." He said, "Yeah, but if I get caught, I'm fucked." I replied, "Yeah, so am I. We'll risk it together." He asked, "What do you even want to do?" I said, "I don't know. Wanna smoke?" He asked if I had weed, and I told him, "You know I do." He said, "Okay, fine. Where do you want to meet?" I suggested the halfway point, and he agreed. The halfway point was literally halfway between our houses. We'd both leave at the same time and meet at this street corner. It saved us some walking time. So, I got up out of bed, grabbed a hoodie, put on some sweatpants, put on another hoodie because it was freezing, grabbed my backpack with my bowl and weed in it, and opened my window. I got a huge burst of 25-degree air, and I was freezing, so I grabbed a third hoodie. Then, I climbed out of my window, snuck out of my house, and quickly walked to the halfway point to meet John. I got there pretty quickly since it was a short walk. John was already there, and we were both freezing. We were like, alright, let's smoke. I pulled my bowl out of my backpack. It was already packed since I had it ready for the next day, and we started smoking together. Let me tell you, this sucked. First of all, the wind was blowing like crazy, making it almost impossible to light the bowl. John had to cup his hands around the lighter so it wouldn't blow out. It just sucked. We were freezing. My hands felt like they were getting frostbite. My nose was all red. It just didn't feel good to be out there, and it honestly didn't feel worth it. But that was most of my life at that age. A lot of shit felt like it wasn't worth it, but I did it anyway, just to say I did. So we kept smoking, and things were going okay, I guess. About 10 minutes later, after we finished, we just sat down in the snow and talked. We didn't want to go home yet, so we were just sitting there, freezing our asses off, chatting. All of a sudden, we saw an SUV coming towards us with really bright lights. We figured it was just someone driving by, someone who lived in the neighborhood. But as the car got closer, I quickly realized it was a cop car. The police SUV saw us, and we saw it. And just a few moments later, the police put their lights on and started slowing down next to us. John and I looked at each other like, oh shit, because we knew we were done. I had my backpack with my weed and bowl in it. We both reeked of weed, and we were both high. There was no hiding it. Before the cop even got out of his car, John and I just kind of accepted our fate. I looked at John and asked, what do we do? What do we say? He said, dude, we're caught red-handed. There's nothing we can do. I sighed, fuck, you're right. Do we just admit it? He said, yeah, if he asks. I agreed. The cop got out of his car, walked over to us and asked, what are you boys doing out so late in the cold like this? John and I looked at each other, then back at the cop. I started talking. I don't know. We just wanted to meet up and hang out. He asked, don't you guys have school tomorrow? We said, yeah, but we'll still go. We're not going to miss the bus or anything. We're just hanging out. We live down the street from each other. The cop asked, do your parents know you're out here this late? I really didn't care about lying, so I told the truth. Honestly, no. We both snuck out. We're just hanging out for a few minutes, then we're going home. The cop nodded and asked, anything else you boys are doing out here? Anything illegal? John and I looked at each other. Neither of us wanted to say it, but John spoke up. We may have smoked a little bit. The cop asked, smoked what? I said, just a little bit of weed. He nodded and said, okay, can I see what you have? I said, sure, and opened my backpack. I pulled out my bowl and the small bag of weed I had, maybe $20 worth. The cop took it, shined his flashlight on it, examined it for like 2 seconds, then handed it back to me. He said, okay, thank you. I asked, you want me to put this back in my bag? He said, yeah, probably a good idea. I was so confused. I thought he was going to confiscate my bag, but he didn't. The cop said, alright, listen, since you boys were honest with me, I'm not going to go home and tell your parents, and I'm not going to take your stuff. I know what it's like to be a teenager. We've all been there. But listen, hanging out on this street corner in the middle of the night isn't safe. I don't know what would happen if I left you guys here alone. You could get mugged, robbed, or freeze to death. You really should just be home, okay? So can you promise me you'll go home and not hang out here this late anymore? John and I nodded and said, yeah, of course. He said, okay, I'm going to take you guys home now. We agreed. We got in the cop car and he drove us back to our houses, dropping us off one by one. I climbed back through my window and John did the same at his place. We both went to sleep. The next morning, I woke up and genuinely thought it was all a dream, like some weird fever dream or something. I checked my phone and John had texted me, yo, last night was crazy. That's when I realized it actually happened. I still had my weed and my bowl, which was nuts because most cops would have confiscated it since it was illegal back then. So yeah, moral of the story, don't be like dumbass 15-year-old Luna. But all in all, it could have gone a lot worse, and I'm glad it didn't. I got really lucky. I hope you guys enjoyed the story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video, feel free to leave your story times in the comments, and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace. Yo, what's good everyone? It's Austin here, or Luna. So today's story time is really giving me old Luna vibes, you know? Like this is some 2016 type stuff right here, and I honestly can't believe I never uploaded this story back then. But hey, better late than never, right? Also, quick side note, today happens to be my birthday, so that's pretty cool. If you guys want to give me the best birthday gift ever, you should definitely hit that first link in the description and pre-save my new album that's dropping tonight. 7 tracks, all bangers, I promise. If you like my earlier songs or the first album, you'll definitely enjoy this one. And you know what? If we can hit 3,000 pre-saves, I'll do a vlog sometime next week because I haven't done one in ages and I think it'd be really dope. So yeah, that link is down there if you want to help me out. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get into today's story, which is definitely a wild one. Today's story takes us back to 2016, a very interesting year for me. A lot happened, and it was probably the dumbest I've ever been. If you guys were around YouTube back in 2016, following me or my friends, you know that was the era of hype beasts and everyone just following trends, especially when it came to fashion and behavior. A lot of people were doing whatever their favorite rappers were doing back then, and I was definitely one of those people, unfortunately. I mean, I dressed like them, acted like them, even picked up on their habits, some of which were just straight up dumb. So yeah, in 2016, I decided to try lean again. Now let me be clear, do not mess around with that shit. Seriously, just don't. Lean is bad news straight up, but back then I was dumb, easily influenced and trying to emulate the music and lifestyle I was into. So I hit up a friend of mine who dealt with that kind of stuff and I asked if he knew where I could get lean. He did, and I ended up buying some. I went over to his place and his friend had it. I paid about $300 for however much it was. I don't remember the exact amount, but it was a decent bit. Still, $300 was a lot, and honestly, I probably got ripped off, but I was too naive to care. After I bought it, I went back home, and I wasn't planning on using it right away. I figured I'd wait for a day when I'd have the house to myself. Didn't want my mom walking in on me looking like a zombie, you know? So, I hid the bottle under my bed and waited. Fast forward 2 days, it was around 6 p.m, and I was just chilling in my room, messing around on my computer. My mom was home, and everything was pretty normal. Then one of my friends hit me up. We'll just call him Mike. Mike said he was near my house and about to head to Best Buy, and he asked if I wanted to tag along. I had no reason to go, but I was bored, so I figured why not? I told my mom I was heading out and she was like, okay, but when you get back, can you clean your room? My room was a mess, so I said, yeah, sure, and left. So Mike picked me up and we went to Best Buy. We were there for maybe 30 minutes and then we grabbed some food. After that, he dropped me back off at my house. I walked in, went straight to my room, and, to my surprise, my room was spotless. My mom had decided to clean it for me while I was out, and the moment I saw that, my heart sank. My first thought was, oh shit, did she find the lean? I rushed over to my bed, looked underneath, and sure enough, the bottle was gone. My mom had found it. I was freaking out because not only did she find it, but I had no idea where it was now, and I didn't know how much trouble I was in. A few minutes later, my mom walked into my room. She asked, do you like the clean room? I was like, yeah, thank you so much. I didn't think you'd do that for me. She smiled, then held up the bottle and said, wanna tell me what this is? My stomach dropped. I stammered, it's just rubbing alcohol. She shot me this look and said, don't bullshit me, it's not rubbing alcohol. I smelled it. What is it really? I sighed and admitted, okay, it's codeine. She stared at me and said, codeine? Do you have a fucking cough or something? I shook my head. No. She replied, yeah, no shit. So why do you have it? All I could say was, because I'm stupid. She looked disappointed and asked, are you selling it? Are you using it for fun? What's the deal? I told her the truth. I bought it from a friend and hadn't touched it yet. I was planning on trying it, but I hadn't gotten around to it. She took a deep breath and said, okay, here's the deal. I'm going to throw this away and I'm going to check your phone to see who you got this from. You're not going to see them anymore. And if I ever find anything like this under your bed again, I'm calling the cops. I nodded and said, got it. She walked out, and honestly, I expected her to ground me or take everything away, but she didn't. She just made it very clear that if I fucked up again, there would be serious consequences. And that was enough for me. I never messed with lean again after that. I came to my senses and realized how dumb it was. Looking back, I can't believe I even considered it. But yeah, she checked my phone logs, and since I had so many recent calls with different friends, she never figured out who sold it to me. I ended up distancing myself from that crowd anyway. They weren't exactly the best influences. In the end, everything worked out. I learned a valuable lesson. Don't be an idiot and mess around with dangerous shit. Lean is not worth it, and neither is trying to live up to some stupid hype. So, yeah, moral of the story, don't be like 2016 Luna. He was a dumbass. But hey, at least the videos from back then were pretty entertaining, right? Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. I'm about to go watch the Five Nights at Freddy's movie now. Hopefully it's good and I don't end up scared of the animatronics. I'll let you guys know what I think in tomorrow's video if you're interested. See you all tomorrow. Peace out, everybody. Alright, so I've done some pretty stupid shit throughout my childhood, especially during my school years, and I've shared a lot of those moments here before. But this one I haven't told yet, and I don't even know why. But it's time. Hope you enjoy it, and if you do, don't forget to leave a like. Let's get into it. So, today's story takes place back when I was in 9th grade, freshman year. I was at a new school. I don't talk much about this period because, honestly, it was pretty short-lived. I started high school at this new public school, and it wasn't exactly the best. It had a reputation, one of those schools full of kids who were just always getting into trouble, like it was the bad kids' school, if that makes sense. But I didn't really care. My plan was to keep my head down, mind my business, and pass my classes. Obviously, that didn't work out since, well, here I am now, without a high school diploma. But whatever, that's besides the point. Anyway, yeah, I started at this new school, and for the first month or so, it wasn't too bad. Pretty normal stuff. But the second month, that's when things went to complete shit, and let me tell you how it all went down. So, I met this kid during my first week at the school. Let's call him Tyler. Tyler was kinda like me, a shy kid, but once you got to know him, he was actually really cool. He became one of my best friends there pretty quickly, but there was also something about Tyler that I saw in myself. He wasn't always the best at thinking before acting. Like, he'd do things just for the thrill or because it seemed funny in the moment, without really considering the consequences. And yeah, that was basically me too back then. One day, during my second month at this school, Tyler comes up to my locker in the morning while I'm getting my books. He's like, "Yo, dude, you're never gonna guess what I bought last night and brought to school." I'm like, "What?" And Tyler pulls out this bag from his backpack, and inside it, I kid you not, there are like 200 live crickets. Just a whole bag of crickets, all of them chirping and making noise. You could hear them through the bag, and I'm just staring at him like, "Bro, why the fuck do you have 200 crickets in your backpack at school?" He goes, "Bro, I was getting food for my reptiles last night, and I thought it'd be hilarious to bring some extra ones to school, you know, to prank the teachers or something." I asked, "What do you mean, prank the teachers? What are you gonna do? Let them loose in the school?" And right as I said that, he gets this huge grin on his face, and I'm like, "Tyler, are you actually planning on letting those crickets go?" He just shrugs and says, "Maybe." I was like, "Dude, are you serious right now?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm thinking of going into the bathroom and letting them all go. They'll end up all over the hallway and freak everyone out." Now, the logical side of me was like, tell Tyler this is a horrible idea. But the other side of me, the part that wanted a good laugh, was like, okay, this is actually kind of funny. So, I ended up saying both. I was like, "Tyler, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. But it would be funny as hell." He laughed and said, "No, I'm doing it, man. I'm gonna do it." I was like, "Alright, just please don't tell anyone I had anything to do with it." And he was like, "Yeah, don't worry, I got you." Fast forward to a couple of periods later, I'm in my English class. I'm just reading a book, half asleep, kind of drifting off. Then, suddenly, the classroom door opens and a security guard walks in. He says, "Austin, I need you to come with me." And I'm like, okay. So I get up and follow him out of the room. And I can't lie, I was nervous as hell. I had no idea what I did. And that's never a good feeling. If you've ever been pulled out of class by security or a principal, you know what I'm talking about. Your mind just starts racing, wondering if you're in trouble and what you could have done. So, the security guard is walking me to the principal's office, and I ask him, "Do you know what this is about?" He says he doesn't know. He was just told to bring me to the office. So now I'm even more anxious because even the security guy doesn't know what's up. We get to the principal's office and he brings me inside, sits me down and leaves. Now it's just me and the principal. And let me tell you, this dude looks pissed. He looks so mad. I'm sitting there like, so how's it going?" And he just stares at me and says, "Austin, I'm not doing good. And I'm sure you know why I'm not doing good, but I'll give you the chance to admit it yourself." I'm like, "Sir, I honestly have no idea what you're talking about." And I really didn't at first. I had completely forgotten about the cricket thing. It just wasn't on my mind at all. So, he says, "Well, a student went to use the bathroom today, and when he did, there were hundreds of crickets all over the floor and all over the hallway leading up to the bathroom. Care to tell me if you know anything about that, Austin?" And suddenly, it hit me. My eyes went wide, and I knew I probably looked guilty as hell. The principal just nods and says, "Oh, so now you remember? Now you know why I'm mad." I was like, "Sir, I swear, I had nothing to do with that." He goes, "Really? Because we checked the cameras and we saw you and Tyler talking at your locker this morning. We saw him show you the bag of crickets. And then, a couple of hours later, crickets are all over the school. So, you really had nothing to do with that?" I said, "Yes, Tyler told me about the crickets, but I told him it was a stupid idea. I told him not to involve me if he did anything with them. I promise, I had nothing to do with it." The principal just shook his head and said, "I don't believe you, Austin. I don't believe you at all." I said, "Sir, check the cameras again. You'll see it was only Tyler who went into the bathroom. I didn't do anything." He just sighed and said, "Oh, we will be checking. Trust me." Then, right when things were getting tense, someone called him out of the office. I think it was one of the vice principals or maybe another security guard. So the principal stands up and says, "Stay right there, I'll be back." And he walks out, leaving me alone in his office. And I'm just sitting there, wondering what's going to happen to me. Am I getting suspended, expelled, or am I not in trouble at all since I technically didn't do anything? I had no idea what to expect. But he was gone for a while. Minutes went by and he still wasn't back. And the longer I sat there, the more anxious I got. My paranoia was just building up. And eventually I was like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm not sitting here any longer. So I looked over at the window in his office and I thought, I'm getting the hell out of here. I walked over, pulled the fire escape latch, opened the window, and crawled out. I jumped down onto the grass outside. It wasn't a big drop, it was the first floor, so it was just a couple of feet. I landed on the grass and I just took off. I walked into the woods behind the school and just kept going until I was far enough away. I ended up going to a burger joint across the street, grabbing some food and eating lunch by myself. But of course, it didn't take long for my phone to start blowing up. My mom called and she was pissed. She was like, "Why am I getting calls from the school saying you left the principal's office by jumping out a window?" I was like, "Yeah, I was getting blamed for something I didn't do, and I got really anxious, so I just left." She was like, "You can't do that, Austin. You went from not being in any trouble to being in a lot of trouble." I said, "I know it was stupid, but I panicked." She wasn't having it. She just said, "I don't care, you're grounded." So I got grounded for a month. When I got home that night, she took away all my electronics, everything, and on top of that, I got kicked out of the school, straight up expelled just like that. Oh, and as for Tyler, I talked to him a couple of days later to find out what happened to him. Turns out he got expelled too, and his parents were so pissed and embarrassed that they put him in a private school. He had to wear a uniform and everything because they wanted to make sure he behaved. So yeah, that sucked for him. What started off as me not being in any trouble at all ended with me getting into a ton of trouble just because I panicked and left. If I had just stayed in that office, the principal probably would have come back, checked the cameras, and realized I wasn't involved. He might have just told me to stay away from Tyler and kids like him, but no, I had to go and jump out a window like an idiot, and that got me expelled. So yeah, that's how I got expelled from that school faster than any other time. Moral of the story, don't be like me back then. Just stay put and let things play out. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your own story times in the comments and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace. Yo, what's good guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. So, today's story is definitely a funny one. One of those weird random experiences that just makes you shake your head. I hope you enjoy it. Leave a like if you do, and let's just get into this because there's no other way to really start it other than to say it's a weird one. So, today's story takes place back when I was 18 years old, right before I moved out to LA. I was still living in my hometown in New York, and I was just chilling. I was still living with my mom at the time. I was old enough to move out, but I wasn't quite ready yet. You know, still a kid, kinda scared of the world. But I was about to make the jump to LA soon, so I was just enjoying my time at home while I had it. One day, I'm in my room, it's around 6 or 7 p.m., and I'm just playing some Xbox. I was definitely in the middle of my CS obsession back then, but I was actually playing Skate 3, just getting some nostalgic gameplay in. My mom texts me and says, "Hey, we need paper towels and some other stuff. Can you go to Walmart and grab those for me?" I said sure, so I headed to Walmart. I got there, grabbed everything we needed, and was about to head out when suddenly my stomach started doing backflips. Real bad, real painful. Definitely not what you want to feel in the middle of a Walmart, right? I realized I wasn't going to make it home in time, so I needed to use the bathroom there. I quickly walked to the nearest public restroom in Walmart, went into one of the stalls and sat down to do my business. I won't go into detail, but let's just say it wasn't fun. My stomach was killing me. Definitely regretted eating all those hot Doritos the night before. So, I'm sitting there, scrolling through Twitter on my phone, and then I hear the door open. Somebody else walks into the bathroom and goes into the stall right next to mine. Now, I don't love using the bathroom right next to someone, but you know, whatever. Everyone's got to do their business. But then, I start hearing these weird noises coming from the stall next to me. It sounded like it was coming from a phone speaker, not the person themselves. At first, it sounded like a dog whining, which was odd. But then, I realized what was happening. I looked down and saw the dude had put his phone on the ground so he could watch whatever video he was playing. And as I focused on the screen, I realized what it was. This dude was on the hub. He was straight up watching that kind of video in a Walmart bathroom stall. I couldn't believe it. This man was really getting off in a Walmart bathroom. At this point, I was like, okay, I need to finish up here and get the hell out. I wrapped things up, pulled up my pants, opened the stall door, and went over to the sink to wash my hands. As I'm washing my hands, I hear the guy call out from the stall, "Is anyone in here?" I replied, "Yeah, I'm in here." He goes, "Oh, I thought I was alone. Sorry." Keep in mind, he was in the stool right next to mine. My stall door was closed and you could easily see my legs under the stool. I could see his legs, so he definitely should have been able to see mine. But I guess he didn't even bother to look around before deciding to open up the hub. I said, "Yeah man, I've been here the whole time. You should probably be more careful about what you watch in public bathrooms because that's really not something you should be doing here." Looking back, I can't even believe I said that. I probably should have just left without saying anything, but I felt like I had to tell him that what he was doing was not okay. I'm glad I did, honestly. He could get in serious trouble for that kind of thing. After I said that, there was this awkward silence for like 5 seconds. Then I was like, "Okay, well, have a good one." And I started to leave. As I opened the door, he goes, "Hold on." I stopped and said, "Yeah?" He goes, "Please don't tell any of the employees. I work here." In my head, I was like, no fucking way. Bro really took his break, went into the bathroom, and just started going at it. That's insane. I replied, "Okay, I won't tell anyone. Have a great day, man." He goes, "You too. Sorry again, bro." I just left the bathroom, walked out, and went to my car. The first thing I did was call my mom. She answered, and I was like, "I am never going grocery shopping for you again." She was like, "Why?" I told her, "I just went to Walmart and caught someone doing the two-knuckle shuffle in one of the bathroom stalls, and he was a worker." She goes, "The two-knuckle shuffle? What's that?" Oh my. I was like, "Yeah." She said, "Wow, that's insane. I don't think I'll be going to that Walmart anymore." I replied, "Yeah, probably a good idea. They have some pretty odd employees." After that, I realized I had left one of the grocery bags in the bathroom stall, so I had to go back in there and hope that he wasn't still in there. I walked back into Walmart, went to the bathroom, opened the door, and guess who was still in there, with his phone on the ground, video still playing. That guy. I went up to the stall, grabbed my bag, and he heard me. He quickly reached down, grabbed his phone, and took it off the ground so I couldn't see it. But we all knew what he was watching. As I was walking out of the bathroom, I saw a Walmart manager heading in. He was one of the head managers. I'd seen him around before. He walked right into the bathroom as I was leaving. I have no idea what happened after that. Maybe the guy got caught and fired, or maybe he stopped in time. I guess we'll never know. But I went back to my car and drove home, deciding I was going to take a little break from Walmart for a while. Moral of the story, don't be off in public places. It's illegal, it's gross, and it's just not something you should be doing. Don't be like that Walmart employee. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace. Yo, what's good guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. Today's story time is definitely one of the weirdest and craziest relationships I've ever been in, and you'll find out why in just a moment. So let's jump into it. If you enjoy it, leave a like on the video. Let's go. Alright, so today's story time takes place when I was 19. I had just moved out to LA. I'd been sort of bouncing back and forth between LA and New York for a while, but this was the first time I had a proper lease. I was finally living on my own out in LA. I was super hyped. I had my own spot, my own space, and things were honestly going pretty well. I had a few close friends out in LA, and I was kind of getting used to the whole adulting on your own thing. I wasn't dating anyone at the time, which honestly was kind of nice. I was just enjoying the peace, focusing on myself and, just chilling. But about 3 months after I settled in, I met this girl at a party. I was out with a couple of my friends and she caught my eye. She seemed cool, we hit it off, started talking more, and things escalated pretty quickly. A couple weeks in, we were spending a lot of time together. Eventually, we put a label on it. Boyfriend and girlfriend, I mean, why not, right? At first, everything was great. The classic honeymoon phase. We were going out on dates, chilling at each other's places, the whole 9 yards. But after about a month in, things started to get kind of rocky. It was like every little thing turned into an argument. It turned out me and this girl had very different ideas about what a relationship should be like, and honestly, about life in general. It got to the point where it felt like we were arguing more than we were actually enjoying each other's company. I tried to make it work, I really did. I mean, I'm not one to just give up after a couple disagreements, But it was getting exhausting. Eventually, there was this one night we went out to dinner and we got into another stupid argument. One of those that just really drives home how incompatible you are with someone. So I was like, you know what? Do you just want to break up? Because we argue more than we actually talk to each other. This clearly isn't working. And she just stared at me for a second, then said, fine. She got up and walked out of the restaurant. Just like that. Left me sitting there. And honestly, I wasn't mad at her for walking out. It was awkward, sure, but I respected it. We were both miserable and it was time to end it. So that was that. We broke up, I paid the bill, went home and tried to just move on. For about a week, everything was pretty normal. I didn't reach out to her and she didn't reach out to me. We were both going our separate ways, and honestly, I wasn't upset. It was actually kind of a relief not to be constantly arguing anymore. I thought that maybe we were just going to move on with our lives like normal people, but oh, how wrong I was. Exactly a week after we broke up, like literally day 8, I got invited out to a club by some friends. I'm not really a big club guy, but it had been kind of a weird, heavy week, and I thought it might be nice to get out of the apartment and have some fun. So I agreed. We all got ready, headed to this club, and it ended up being a good time. I took one snap for my Snapchat story, just one. It was a selfie of me and my friends at our booth, all just hanging out and having a good time. Nothing crazy, nothing shady. Well, apparently I forgot that my ex still had me added on Snapchat. Within like a minute of posting that snap, I get a notification that she's typing. And I'm just like, oh no, here we go. I open up the chat and it's this huge paragraph. It said, wow, can't believe this is the type of guy you are. Not even 2 weeks after breaking up with me, you're at a club trying to hook up with girls. You're pathetic. Bye. And then she blocked me. Like, what? First of all, I wasn't at the club to pick up girls. I was just there because my friends wanted to go out and I figured, why not? I hadn't even really thought about it like that. I was just trying to have fun. And even if I was there trying to meet someone else, I mean, we were broken up. I didn't owe her anything, but I get it, you know? I understand how it could be upsetting to see your ex out partying right after you break up, especially if you're still feeling some type of way. But she jumped to conclusions, and before I could even explain myself, I was blocked. So, whatever. I went back to just enjoying the night with my friends, and I smoked a little too much weed. I don't drink, so weed is kind of my go-to when I'm out. The club we were at allowed people under 21 to be there, but if they caught you drinking, they'd kick you out and call the cops. So I stuck to weed, but yeah, I overdid it a little. Eventually, we all decided it was time to call it a night. We headed back to my apartment because we wanted to chill for a bit before everyone headed home. We got an Uber, made our way to my place, and I led everyone to my front door. My apartment had its own entrance, not like a shared hallway, so I unlocked the door, we all walked in, and everyone just crashed on the living room couches, watching TV and talking. There were 4 of my friends with me, by the way, just so you can picture it. One of my friends, let's call him Vinny, was like, yo Austin, do you have anything to drink, like water or soda or something? I said, yeah, I've got water and Mountain Dew, what do you want? He said, Mountain Dew please. Now, here's the thing, I kept my Mountain Dew in a mini fridge in my bedroom. Yeah, I know, I'm a nerd. I liked having it close when I was gaming, so I told Vinny to hang on, and I went to my room to grab it. I open my bedroom door and I see something that I absolutely did not expect. My ex-girlfriend just sitting on my bed, looking pissed, like red-faced, eyes watering, I'm gonna swing on you, pissed. And I just froze. I slowly closed the door behind me and I was like, what the fuck are you doing in my house? And she's like, I'm just here to talk, I want to talk to you. Her voice was shaky, like she was about to cry. I asked her how the hell she even got into my apartment and she said, you left one of the windows unlocked. And I was like, are you serious? You broke into my house? And she's like, no, I didn't break anything. The window was open. And I was like, that's still trespassing. You're not supposed to be here. And she just kept repeating, it's not breaking in if nothing is broken. Like, I don't think she understood how laws work. So I told her, look, if you don't get out of my house right now, I'm calling the cops. And she just looked at me and said, no, you're not. So I pulled out my phone and started dialing 911. She grabbed the phone out of my hand and she was like, don't do that. Don't be immature. I just want to talk. And I was like, immature? You broke into my house. I reached over, grabbed my phone back and started dialing again. That's when she finally got up, walked past me and stormed out of my bedroom. She walked down the hallway, into the living room where all my friends were still chilling, and one of my friends was like, hey, good seeing you. And she just scoffed and said, whatever. Then she swung open my front door, walked out and slammed it shut behind her. At that point, I was just relieved she was gone. I didn't even end up calling the cops. I just wanted her out of my space and she was finally out. I walked back into the living room and Vinny looked at me, wide-eyed and said, yo, what the fuck was that? Why was she here? I thought you guys broke up. And I was like, yeah, we did. She snuck in through an unlocked window. And everyone just kind of stared at me, stunned. They were like, what did she want? I said, I don't even know. She said she wanted to talk, but I didn't let her get that far. After that, I made sure to lock every single window and door in my apartment, every single day. Didn't matter if it was daytime, nighttime, if I was home or not. Everything stayed locked, and thankfully, she never showed up again. I haven't heard from her since. And I'm glad, because that was way too much. So, yeah, moral of the story, keep your windows and doors locked. You never know when someone might decide to drop in uninvited. Anyway, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed the story time about one of my craziest exes. If you did, leave a like on the video and subscribe if you're new. Feel free to leave your own story times in the comments down below. I'll see you all later. Peace. Yo, what's good guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. Today, I've got a bit of a scary story for you. I don't usually tell creepy stories on this channel, but lately I've been reading through the comments, and one of the top comments was asking if I had any more scary stories. And, well, I've got plenty, just never really get around to telling them because I tend to focus more on the crazy stuff from my teenage years. But today, I've got one for you that happened not too long ago. It's definitely a creepy one. If you like this kind of video, leave a like, and I'll make more like it. But for now, let's get into it. So today's story takes place about 2 years ago. So yeah, it's not super recent, but it's definitely more recent compared to a lot of the other stuff I've talked about on here. Anyway, I was hanging out with two of my best friends. We'll call them Jake and Teddy. These guys have been my ride or die since I was 14 years old. Great people, always down for an adventure. One of the things that Jake and Teddy love is exploring abandoned buildings. Like, they have this huge passion for urban exploration, just checking out old abandoned places, taking photos, getting a little spooked. They were actually the two people who got me into it in the first place. So, on this particular day, that's what we were planning to do. We decided we were going to check out this huge abandoned hospital. Not a mental hospital or anything like that, just a regular hospital that had been closed down for like 50 years. It was about an hour away from where we lived, and honestly, I was pretty excited. I'd seen photos of it online, and it looked like a dope spot to explore. We planned to head out around 9:30 at night, just so it would be dark enough and we wouldn't have to worry about people seeing us and calling the cops, which is always a risk. Plus, exploring at night just adds to the whole vibe, you know? So, 9:30 rolls around and we pull up to this place. It's pitch dark, nobody else is around, no security, no cops, nothing. We park in the lot and it's just us, this massive hospital building and the creepy stillness of the night. We ended up crawling in through a window and immediately it's one of the wildest sights I've ever seen. This place is massive, like 16 stories tall, and it's old as hell. You can tell it's been abandoned for decades, everything's falling apart, but it looks super cool. Right away, I pull out my film camera and start snapping pictures, and my friends do the same. We were all just kind of in awe of how crazy the place looked. We started on the first floor and took our time exploring. It took us about 30 minutes just to get through that one floor, and then we moved up to the second. We took some more pictures, checked out a bunch of rooms, and after another 30 minutes or so, we decided to skip the next bunch of floors and head straight to the top. We wanted to see the roof, see what kind of view there was from up there. The roof was pretty dope, nothing too crazy, just some graffiti and broken equipment, but the view was incredible. You could see the whole city skyline in the distance. We hung out up there for a bit, and then we decided to start making our way back down. Now, this is where things started to get weird. So, we had to go down all 16 flights of stairs to get back to the first floor. The staircase was this super long, spiral kind of setup, so you could look up and see all the way to the roof, and if you looked down, you'd see the ground floor way below. We were about halfway down, right in the middle of this long-ass staircase, when we suddenly heard it. The loudest, most terrifying scream I'd ever heard in my life. It sounded like a girl who was scared out of her mind. It echoed through the whole staircase and it sounded like it was coming from just above us. Immediately, we all froze and looked up, expecting to see someone on the staircase, but there was nobody there. We were standing there just processing what we heard, and we had two options. We could run down the stairs, get the hell out of there and not look back, or we could go up and try to find out what was happening. Maybe someone was hurt and needed help. We decided to go with the second option. We wanted to be good people. We wanted to make sure nobody was in danger or hurt. So we ran back up the stairs to the floor we thought the scream came from. We were yelling like, "Hello, is anyone there? Are you okay?" We got no response. We started looking around, room by room, trying to find anyone, but there was nothing, nobody. So we went up to the next floor, did the same thing, and still found nothing. At this point, we were kind of confused. We figured it was probably just some kids messing with us, maybe trying to scare us. People explore these buildings all the time, and teenagers pulling pranks wouldn't be unheard of. So, we decided to head back down. We figured whoever it was, they were probably fine and just screwing around. We made it down 2 more flights and then we heard it again, another scream. Just as loud and just as terrifying. This time it wasn't just one scream, there was a second scream that came in halfway through and then another voice screamed, "Help me, help me." At this point, me, Jake and Teddy all looked at each other and we knew this wasn't a joke. Someone actually needed help. Without even thinking, we turned around and sprinted back up the stairs, back to where we thought we heard the screams coming from. We were yelling out, "Where are you? Are you okay?" And this time, we got a response. We could hear them yelling, We're over here! We're over here! We ran down this long hallway and we could see the light of a flashlight bouncing off the walls. We turned the corner and there they were, two girls sitting in the corner of the hallway crying their eyes out. We ran up to them and I asked, "Are you okay? Are you hurt?" One of them looked up at us, tears streaming down her face, and said, "No, we're fine, but there's somebody else in the building. He's been messing with us." I was like, "What do you mean? What happened?" She shook her head and said, "I'll explain later. We need to get out of here. Now." And she stood up, her friend following right behind her, and started walking down the hallway. The urgency in her voice told me all I needed to know. There was someone in that building and they were dangerous. We needed to get out. So, we led the way back to the stairwell and booked it down those stairs as fast as we could. We got to the ground floor, crawled out the window we came in through, and ran to the parking lot. We got to Jake's car and we all just stood there, catching our breath. Once we were outside and safe, the girls finally told us what had happened. Apparently, the first scream we heard was one of them. She was a couple of floors above us and she had seen a man standing in the doorway of one of the rooms. He was just standing there, smoking a cigarette, with a bandana covering his face. She said it looked like he was smoking through the bandana, which was weird as hell. But what really freaked her out was that he started to move toward her. That's when she screamed and ran. She tried to find her friend, but they ended up getting split up, something you should never do in a place like that. They eventually found each other on another floor, and that's when the second scream happened. They were both screaming because they were being chased by this guy, and they ended up hiding in that corner where we found them. After hearing all of this, I was just in shock. I asked them if they heard us calling out to them the first time when we were looking for them earlier. One of the girls nodded and said, "Yeah, but we didn't want to yell back. He was too close and we didn't want him to hear us." And that just hit me. Imagine being in a situation where you hear people calling out to help you, but you can't even respond because you're terrified the person chasing you will find you. That's some truly scary. But anyway, we got them safely out of the building and we ended up giving them a ride to their car, which was parked across the street. They were way too scared to walk alone and I don't blame them one bit. After that, we said our goodbyes and needless to say, we never went back to that hospital again. I didn't even see the guy, but just knowing he was there, lurking around, was enough to freak me out. So yeah, moral of the story, stay away from creepy, abandoned buildings. Trust me, it's not worth the risk. You never know who or what might be in there with you. But on a brighter note, we actually became friends with the two girls after this. We all stayed in touch and now we have this crazy, terrifying story to bond over. So I guess something good came out of it. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video, I'd really appreciate it. And feel free to share your own scary stories in the comments below. If you're new here, subscribe for more stories. I'll see you guys later. Peace. Yo, what's up guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. So, today's story time is definitely an insane one that I've been waiting to tell for a long time. The reason I haven't told it before is because my friend, who's at the center of it, just didn't want me to put it on YouTube for years. I respected his wishes, but the other day, he finally gave me the okay, so here we are. I'm telling it now. I hope you enjoy it, and if you do, make sure to leave a like on the video. Alright, let's jump into this. So today's story starts off as a regular day in 2016. I was just hanging out in my room, chilling on my computer, playing some CS:GO. Back then, that was pretty much my whole life, playing CS, getting some gameplay and making videos. I was having a nice peaceful day, just enjoying myself. Then, out of the blue, my friend Jake hit me up. Now let me tell you a little about Jake. He wasn't a bad kid or anything like that, but he definitely got into trouble more often than most. He sold a bit of weed here and there, you know, nothing too crazy, but it still put him in some situations from time to time. So Jake hits me up and he's like, "Yo man, what are you doing tonight? Wanna come ride around for a bit, listen to some music, maybe get some food?" I was down immediately. Back then, that was our routine. It wasn't summer, so there wasn't a lot of stuff open late, and the weather was pretty shitty, so we usually just drove around, got some food, blasted music, and chilled in empty parking lots, talking about whatever. It wasn't the most thrilling way to spend time, but honestly, I miss those days. So Jake picked me up, and we went to Taco Bell to get some food. After that, we started driving around, just listening to music and talking. We ended up picking up another friend of ours, we'll call him Mike, and it was just the three of us hanging out, vibing, doing our usual thing. But then things took a weird turn. Jake got a phone call while he was driving. The number wasn't saved in his contacts, and I couldn't hear much of what the guy on the other end was saying, but I could hear Jake's side of the conversation. He was just like, yeah, I got you. I'll be right there." He hangs up, looks over at us and says, "Hey, sorry guys, I gotta make a quick stop." Now, when he said he needed to make a stop, I thought it was just a quick drop-off, probably some weed or something. It wasn't a big deal, and I didn't really care, so I was like, "Yeah, no problem." We drove to this random house and Jake got out. He went to the trunk, grabbed whatever he needed, and headed inside. He came back out about 5 minutes later, and we drove off like nothing happened. We kept driving, listening to music, just chilling. But then he got another call. This time, it was someone saved in his contacts, a guy named George. Same routine. Jake answered, said he'd be there soon, and we made another stop to drop something off. This time, after Jake got back in the car, I asked him, "Hey, are you just dropping off weed or something?" He nodded and was like, Yeah, just weed." And I was like, "Alright, whatever." After that, we kept driving around, but Jake was driving like an idiot. Like not even 5 minutes after we got back on the road, he ran a red light. Not just any red light, he ran it right near the house where we had just been. He just blew right through it, and of course there was a cop sitting right there. As soon as Jake ran the light, the cop flipped his lights on and started coming after us. Jake was like, fuck, dude, god damn it." And my friend in the back seat was like, "Bro, you shouldn't have run that red light." And Jake was just like, "Shut the fuck up." I told him, "Dude, relax, just pull over. He might not even give you a ticket, he might just give you a warning or something. Just pull over." So Jake pulled over, and the cop pulled up behind us, got out of his car, and walked up to Jake's window. He asked for Jake's license and registration, and Jake handed it over. Then he asked for our IDs, and me and Mike handed ours over too. The cop took them, checked them out, and started asking us where we were coming from. We just told him the truth. We'd been driving around, got some food, and were just listening to music like we normally did. Then the cop goes, "I smell weed. Anyone got any weed in the car?" And that was because Mike had been smoking a joint earlier, like an hour before, and the car still smelled like weed. We all turned and looked at Mike, and he goes, Yeah, officer, it was me. Sorry, I smoked a joint earlier, and the smell hasn't really gone away." The officer nodded and said, "Okay, that's alright. No big deal. Was it just a joint, or is there any more I should know about?" Mike shook his head and said, No, it was just that. I promise. You can search me if you want." The cop was like, "No, I believe you. It's fine. You don't need to be searched." Then he said, "Honesty goes a long way. You're honest with me. I'll be nice to you guys." And we were like, "Okay, cool." Then he turned to Jake and said, "Jake, do you know why I pulled you over today?" Jake said, "Yeah, I have a feeling. I didn't see the light change, and I blew right through it." He tried to make it sound like an accident, saying, "My buddy in the passenger seat said he saw me go through it, but I had no idea." That was complete bullshit, by the way. Jake definitely saw that light turning red, and he just sped up, trying to make it through. The cop just nodded and said, "Yeah, you're right. You ran the red light, so I pulled you over. You've got to pay better attention to the road and the lights." Then he said, "Alright, just give me a second. I'll be right back." He went back to his car to run all of our IDs, check for warrants, all that stuff. After a few minutes, he came back up to Jake's window and said, "Jake, can you step out of the car for me?" Jake asked, "Why?" The cop just said, "Can you step out real quick? Turn the vehicle off, please." And I remember thinking, what the fuck is going on? And then, out of nowhere, Jake reached for the shifter. He was trying to put the car in drive and take off. The cop saw what he was doing, and he lunged into the window, practically climbed into the car, and grabbed Jake's hand off the shifter. He yelled, "Get out of the car right fucking now." He swung the door open, yanked Jake out, and put him in handcuffs. I was just sitting there, and Mike was in the back seat, and we were both just looking at each other like, what the fuck did Jake do? The cop put Jake in handcuffs, sat him down in the grass right in front of the car, and told us to get out of the car too. So we got out. He didn't handcuff us, he just told us to sit next to Jake while he called for backup. A couple of other cops pulled up, and they started talking to us, asking how we knew Jake, what we were doing, all that stuff. Meanwhile, the first cop was still talking to Jake, and we had no idea why Jake tried to run, or why the cop was asking him to get out of the car in the first place. Something must have come up when they ran his name in the system, right? So I asked one of the other officers, "Sir, why are we here right now? What happened? Why is Jake getting arrested? What's going on?" The cop looked at me and said, "So, the officer ran a warrant check, and your buddy has a warrant. When he tried to run, obviously, the officer had to step in. That's why it went the way it did. It wouldn't have gone that way if he didn't try to run." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So that confirmed it. Jake had a fucking warrant. I asked, "What was the warrant for?" Jake was close enough to hear me ask, and he just yelled out, "Nothing, it's bullshit, don't worry about it." The cop didn't really answer my question, he just kind of ignored it and went back to talking to one of the other officers. So I still didn't know what was going on. I had no idea why Jake had a warrant. Eventually one of the cops stood me and Mike up, told us we could leave, and asked if we needed a ride anywhere. We said no, so he said, "Okay, you're free to go." We just walked away, while Jake went to jail because he had an active warrant for his arrest. Not only that, but when they searched the car, they found a bunch of weed in the trunk, and they charged him for that too, because at the time, weed was still illegal in New York. The next day, I called Jake's parents to find out what was going on, and that's when I found out what the warrant was for. You wanna guess? Go ahead, take a second to guess. Alright, so it turns out that Jake had a warrant for stealing, and not just from any store. He stole some of the dumbest shit you could think of. He stole a bunch of jeans from some clothing store, a bunch of candles, yeah, fucking candles, from a home store. He cared so much about his room smelling like cinnamon or whatever that he stole a bunch of scented candles. He also stole some shoes and other random shit. Basically, he went to the mall and shoplifted from a bunch of different stores, and they caught him on camera, identified him, and put out a warrant. Jake's parents were pissed, obviously, and the timing couldn't have been worse. Jake got caught like a month after turning 18, so he was tried as an adult. If he'd been a little younger, like 16 or 17, he probably would have gotten off way easier. But because he was technically an adult, they treated him like one, and they charged him like one. So yeah, he had to go to jail. He got bailed out pretty quickly, he was out within a week or so, but his parents were pissed. They took away his car, he had to pay a bunch of fines, and he was on probation for a couple of years. He was definitely in a lot of trouble. And honestly, I keep thinking about what would have happened if he actually managed to put the car in drive and take off. He was fully ready to try and outrun the cops, and we would have been in the car with him. He probably would have been going 100 miles an hour or faster, and who knows what would have happened. It could have ended a lot worse. So yeah, moral of the story, don't do what Jake did. It was some dumb shit, and it put us all in a really bad spot. That's about it for today's story time. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace. Yo, what's good guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. Today's story time is a bit of a funny one and definitely a bit cringe looking back at it now. It's one of those moments that makes me wonder, what the hell was I thinking? But I figured, why not share it? I haven't talked about it before, and hey, we all have those awkward phases in life, right? So back when I was about 15, before I really started figuring out who I was and what I wanted to do, I went through a lot of different phases. Like, a lot. I think we all kind of go through that, you know? Trying out different personalities and seeing what sticks. I had a phase where I got super into music production, and hey, at least that one kind of stuck. I still do music now, so that turned out to be pretty cool. But, not all of my phases were quite as productive or respectable, if I'm being honest. For example, when I was around 13 or 14, I went through a phase where I wanted to be a hacker. Yup, you heard that right. I wanted to be one of those mysterious, badass hackers you'd see online taking people's accounts and causing chaos. I used to see people getting hacked on Twitter and think, I want to be the one doing that. I want to be the guy people are afraid of. Spoiler alert, it was dumb as hell. But hey, when you're 13, you don't really think things through. So I got deep into this wannabe hacker mindset. I started doing all this research, learning how to take people's accounts, find their info, use it against them, all that cringe stuff. I thought I was super cool and edgy, but honestly, it was just lame. Anyway, today's story time is about one of those hacker moments I had, so let's get into it. This all starts off as a pretty normal day when I was 14. By this point, I had learned quite a bit about hacking, or at least what I thought was hacking. I knew some basic stuff about finding people's accounts, accessing their passwords, and stuff like that. Nothing serious, but I definitely thought I was some kind of internet wizard. Another thing about 14-year-old me was that I was deep in a Minecraft phase, super into Minecraft. I was one of those wannabe Minecraft YouTubers who played Hunger Games and tried to be all entertaining on camera. And I gotta say, looking back, wannabe hacker plus wannabe Minecraft YouTuber, not the best combo, but it is what it is. So, yeah, I was really into Minecraft, and I spent a lot of my time on different servers playing games like Hunger Games, Skyblock, all that stuff. One day, I hopped onto a Hunger Games server just playing solo. I was having a pretty good time and I was doing well, kicking some ass to be honest. Now, there was this kid in the lobby who just randomly started talking mad shit to me. Like out of nowhere, he was throwing insults left and right. He called me a random, which back in the day basically meant I was irrelevant. He said I was terrible at the game, that I sucked. Just all these childish playground insults, right? Now, if there's one thing you should know about 14-year-old me, it's that I had a very short temper, like super short. I took everything people said to me online to heart, especially if they were talking shit. I know, nowadays I wouldn't care at all, but back then, I got really offended really quickly. So this kid is talking all this shit to me and I'm getting heated. I start typing back like, "You're trash, man. I just kicked your ass. I won the game. What are you even talking about?" I was taking it way too personally. But this kid wouldn't let up. He just kept going, throwing more insults at me, and the more he typed, the angrier I got. It was like he knew exactly what buttons to press. Eventually, I got so mad that I typed out, "If you don't stop talking, I'm gonna hack your Minecraft account." And he replied, "Oh, sure you can, buddy," and called me a script kiddie, which is basically hacker lingo for a wannabe hacker, someone who doesn't actually know what they're doing. And I wasn't having it. I was like, "Oh, you wanna see what a script kiddie can do? Alright." So I logged out of the server, went online, and started working on getting into this kid's account. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about what I did or how I did it because, first of all, it's cringe, and second of all, I don't want anyone getting any ideas and trying to do this themselves. Also, I'm pretty sure most of the methods I used back then are outdated and wouldn't even work today, so let's just leave it all in the past. Anyway, I went on this website, a shady forum that was basically a hangout for wannabe hackers like myself. It had all these sketchy tools that people could use to get into accounts. I typed in this kid's Minecraft username, did a little digging, and within 5 minutes, literally 5 minutes, I had his password and email. I couldn't believe how easy it was. I was feeling like a badass, like I was some kind of genius. So I logged into his Minecraft account, kicked him off, and changed his password. I even traded all of his items to myself, like a true cringe lord. I was laughing my ass off, thinking I'd won. Then, just to rub it in, I went to my email and sent him an email. I said, "Hey man, remember when you said I couldn't do anything? Who's the script kiddie now? Just being an absolute piece of shit, honestly." 2 minutes later, the kid responded. He said, "Give me my Minecraft account back, or I'm gonna fuck you up." I laughed again, thinking, what's this kid gonna do? So I decided to troll him a bit more. I replied with a troll face image, just a big old PNG of that classic troll face. And he replied almost immediately saying, "Last warning, give me my account back, or I'm gonna get my friend to fuck you up." Now, I thought this was hilarious. I replied, "Ha ha 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 XD, you're so lame, dude." And then I didn't hear from him for a while, like an hour or so. I figured that was it. I'd won, he'd given up, and I was the badass hacker I thought I was. Boy, was I wrong. About an hour later, I tried logging into my Facebook, and I couldn't get in. I thought maybe I'd forgotten my password or something, so I didn't think too much of it. I figured I'd reset it later. Then I tried logging into my Xbox account, and I was logged out of that too, and again, I couldn't get in. That's when I started to worry a little bit. I thought, okay, this is weird. 2 of my accounts are locked? What's going on? So then I tried logging into my PlayStation account, same thing, couldn't get in. One by one I tried all of my accounts and they were all locked. I couldn't log into anything, and when I tried to change my passwords, I wasn't getting the emails to do it. I realized that someone had not only locked me out of my accounts, but had also changed the recovery emails. My heart sank and I started panicking. About 10 minutes later, I got an email. It was from a random email address and it said, "Hey, you want to give my friend his account back?" And that's when I realized just how badly I'd screwed up. This kid had his own hacker friend, and that friend was clearly way more skilled than I was. I had messed with the wrong person, and now I was paying the price. I replied, "Hey man, I'll give him his account back. Just give me my stuff first." The guy replied, "No, no, 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 no. You give us our stuff back first, and if you do, maybe I'll consider not swatting your ass." The second I read the word SWAT, I was done. I did not want to mess around with that. I wasn't about to have my door kicked down by a SWAT team. So, without any hesitation, I gave the kid his account back, changed all the information back to what it was, and sent it to him. A couple minutes later, the hacker sent me an email saying, "Alright, check your emails." And sure enough, all my accounts were unlocked, and I was able to reset my passwords and get everything back. I had to ask though. I replied, "Hey man, how did you get into my stuff? What did I do wrong?" He replied, "You really want to know? The minute your dumbass sent my friend an email, you gave me everything I needed. All I needed was your email address to find everything else about you, so good job covering your tracks, bro." He was obviously being sarcastic, and I felt like the biggest idiot in the world. Needless to say, I never tried hacking anyone ever again. I learned my lesson the hard way. There are real hackers out there who know what they're doing and can actually ruin your life, unlike what I was doing, just taking Minecraft accounts and being cringe. But, hey, I will say one thing, I got something out of it. I kept all of that kid's items from his Minecraft account, the diamonds, the food, everything. He never asked for it back and I wasn't about to offer, so I guess I kinda won in the end. But honestly, it was still a massive L for me. So, yeah. Moral of the story? Don't be like 14-year-old me. Don't try to be a hacker. It's not worth it, and it can lead to some real trouble. I learned that the hard way. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this story time. If you did, please leave a like. I'd really appreciate it. I'm back now, by the way. Finished up all the album demos, so I'm back on my YouTube and streaming grind. Come check out my stream. I'm live every night and I'll be uploading daily. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you guys later. Peace. Yo, what's good guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. First off, I want to say sorry for the lack of uploads over the last week. I've been grinding out a new album for you guys, lots of new music coming real soon, and I promise it's some good stuff. I'm not sitting here making some cringe crap. I've been putting my heart and soul into this one, and it's almost done. Trust me, it's worth the wait, and it'll be here before summer ends. I can't wait for you to hear it. But now, I'm back, and I've got a pretty wild story time for you today. This is one of my favorites, one that every time I tell to my friends, they freak out and say, "Dude, you have to tell that on YouTube." So, here it is. It's the story of how I actually lost my YouTube channel for a bit. You're probably thinking, how do you lose a YouTube channel? Well, buckle up because I'm about to explain. So, today's story all takes place just a week after I hit 1 million subscribers. Now, as you can imagine, hitting 1 million subs is one of the most surreal, amazing feelings ever. To this day, it's still one of my top 3 craziest achievements in life. The whole week after hitting that milestone, I was on top of the world, just floating on a cloud of happiness. At this point in my life, I had a different group of friends than I do now. Pretty much everyone from this story isn't in my life anymore, but back then, these people were my crew. One friend in particular, let's call him Devon, was someone I'd been friends with since 8th grade. He was like a brother to me, one of my day one guys. I never imagined we'd fall out or stop being friends. I figured we'd be close forever. But then something weird happened. Right after I hit 1 million subs, Devon started acting really strange around me, almost like he was upset or annoyed by my success. Like I could tell he wasn't genuinely happy for me. Let me give you an example. As soon as I hit 1 million subs, I texted Devon because out of everyone, I wanted to share the news with my closest friends first. I hit him up like, "Dude, I just hit 1 million subs. Come over, let's celebrate." And his response, "Cool." Just one word, no exclamation point, no excitement, nothing, just, "Cool." I thought maybe he was busy, so I asked if he wanted to come over. He replied, "Can't right now, maybe later." It was weird. It was like he was giving me attitude, and I didn't get why. I asked if everything was okay, and all he said was, "Yep, it's fine." But it clearly wasn't. It felt like he was salty, or maybe even jealous, and it wasn't like I was bragging. I wasn't flexing on him, or rubbing it in his face. I just wanted to celebrate with my friends. Hey! I tried to brush it off, but it was clear something was off. And that weird vibe continued for the next week. Devon just wasn't acting like the friend I knew. A week after hitting 1 million subs, I was chilling in my room, doing what I always did, working on videos, playing some Call of Duty, and just enjoying life. Out of the blue, Devon hits me up. He's like, "Yo, wanna come over tonight?" And honestly, I was relieved. I thought, okay, maybe he's over whatever was bothering him. Maybe things are back to normal. So I grabbed my laptop, threw it in my backpack along with my charger, and headed over to his place. I got to Devon's house about 20 minutes later. I walked in, said what's up to him, and asked if I could connect to his Wi-Fi to finish up a video real quick. He gave me a look and said, "Dude, really? You're working right now?" I was like, "Yeah man, I just need like 5 or 10 minutes to change the thumbnail and upload it. It won't take long." He rolled his eyes but said, "Alright man, whatever." I sat at his kitchen table and quickly finished up what I needed to do. It took about 5 minutes, and then I closed my laptop and joined Devon in the living room. We hung out for the next few hours, had a bonfire, and even hung out with his sister for a bit. Everything seemed fine. We were joking around like old times, and it felt like the awkwardness was finally gone. Eventually, it got late and it was time for me to head home. I said goodbye to Devon and his family, hopped in my car, and drove off. I didn't even realize until I pulled into my driveway that I had left my backpack along with my laptop at Devon's house. And here's the thing, my laptop was still signed into my YouTube channel and I didn't have a password on it. I know, dumb move, but back then, I didn't really think about stuff like that. So there I was, sitting in my driveway, realizing my 1 million subscriber YouTube channel was just sitting there, wide open for anyone to mess with. I was a little panicked, but I tried to calm myself down. I mean, it was Devon, he was one of my best friends and I trusted him. His family was good people too, so I figured it'd be fine. I immediately called Devon and said, "Hey, I left my laptop at your house. Can you just put it in your room or something? I'll come grab it now." He paused for a second, then said, "Can you just come get it tomorrow? I'm really tired." I didn't want to push it, so I said, "Okay, yeah, I'll come by in the morning." He said, "Alright, cool," and we hung up. I tried to convince myself everything would be fine. I mean, it was just one night. I figured Devon probably didn't even know I was signed in, and besides, I trusted him. So I went to bed that night, trying not to worry too much. The next morning, I woke up to about 25 DMs on Twitter from my friends, both YouTube friends and real life friends, all asking me, "Yo, what's going on with your YouTube channel?" My heart sank. I opened up the messages and they were all sending me screenshots of my channel. The profile picture was just a pitch black image, the banner was gone, and the name of the channel wasn't Luna anymore. It was some random combination of letters and numbers, like someone had smashed their head on a keyboard and pressed enter. I felt my stomach drop. I went to check my mentions, and a few subscribers were tweeting at me too, asking if I got hacked. I rushed over to my desktop computer, and luckily, I was still logged in there. I immediately started changing everything back, changing my profile picture, putting my banner back up, changing the channel name, and updating my security settings. I was freaking out, but at least I still had access. Once everything was back to normal, I picked up my phone and called Devin. I was pissed. The second he answered, I said, "Yo, what the fuck are you doing to my YouTube channel?" I didn't even hesitate, I just went straight for it. Devin sounded confused. He was like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Dude, I left my laptop at your house last night. You said you'd put it in your room. I wake up today and my channel's been messed with. My name's changed, my profile picture's changed. What the fuck did you do?" Devin sounded annoyed. He said, "Bro, I haven't even looked at your laptop. I've been out all day." I paused. I didn't know what to think. I asked, "Okay, then who could have done something?" He said, "Well, my sister and my little brother are home, so maybe it was one of them." I don't know, dude. Stop accusing me of shit. I sighed and said, "Alright, well, I'm just saying, it's kinda weird." He replied, "Yeah, well, I'm just saying I didn't do shit. Come get your laptop and then stop talking to me." And then he hung up. I drove over to Devin's house, still fuming. His sister answered the door and I asked if I could grab my laptop. She let me in and I went up to Devin's room, grabbed my backpack and headed back to my car. I didn't even leave the driveway before I opened my laptop to check everything. Luckily, I was still logged in and nothing else had been changed. I decided to check the search history to see if I could figure out what had happened. In the search history, I saw a bunch of weird searches. How to delete YouTube channel. How to delete YouTube channel and not be tracked. How to remove monetization off YouTube. All of these were searched within the last couple of hours. I called Devin again and said, "Dude, there are all these weird searches on my laptop. Somebody was definitely on it. You said you weren't home, so who could it have been?" Devin sighed and said, "Bro, I'm telling you, it was probably my little brother. He's a little shit. Just ask him." So I got out of my car, walked back to the door, and knocked. His sister opened it again, and I asked if she knew if anyone had been on my laptop. She said, "Actually, yeah, my little brother was on it earlier today." Her brother had literally just turned 10 years old, so I wasn't expecting much, but I walked into the room where he was, and he was sitting at the family computer playing some game that looked like Wizard 101 or something. I said, "Hey, did you mess with my laptop?" He looked up, all innocent, and said, "No." I said, "Dude, don't lie to me. Your sister said you were on it earlier today. Did you mess with my YouTube channel?" He hesitated and then said, "Why would you say that, Melissa?" His sister just shrugged and said, "Sorry, I didn't know you were trying to delete his YouTube career." The kid sighed and said, "Okay, fine. Yeah, I was just joking around. I wasn't gonna actually do anything." I said, "Bro, you literally Googled how to delete my channel and how to disable monetization. Those are huge things for me. That's not a joke." He shrugged and said, "Yeah, well, I didn't actually delete anything. I just changed the picture and name to mess with you." I was pissed, but what could I do? I said, "Please, never touch my stuff again." He nodded and went back to his game like nothing happened. I could hear his friends on Skype, and one of them must have heard me because he said, "Yo, is that Luna?" I leaned down to the mic and said, "Yeah, it's me. Your friend here almost deleted my channel." I heard one of the kids say, "Bro, you can't fuck with Luna like that." I just shook my head and left. I called Devin back and apologized. I said, "Yo, turns out it was your little brother. He snuck into your room, took my laptop, and messed with it." Devin just sighed and said, "Yeah, I told you. He's a little shit. I'm not surprised." I felt bad for accusing Devin, so I said, "I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to blame you like that." He said, "It's all good. I know I've been acting weird, so I get why you thought it could have been me." I asked him why he'd been acting like that, and he said, "Honestly, I was just jealous, but I'm over it now. I'm happy for you, bro." I appreciated that. I told him I wasn't trying to flex, just trying to celebrate with my friends, and he said he understood. We patched things up, and everything seemed okay. But yeah, Devin's little brother was definitely never trusted around my stuff again. He was a little schemer for sure. In the end, everything turned out alright. I got my channel back to normal, and Devin and I worked things out. But for a moment there, I almost lost my entire YouTube channel, all because of a 10-year. Old kid, moral of the story. If you have something valuable, like a 1 million subscriber YouTube channel, keep your laptop password protected. My dumbass learned that the hard way. And, unfortunately, me and Devin aren't friends anymore, but I hope he's doing well. Maybe I'll tell the story of why we fell out sometime in the future. It's a pretty good one. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the story time. If you did, please leave a like. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you guys all later. Peace. Yo, what's up guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. Today, I've got a story that makes me look like a certified idiot. No doubt about it. This was one of those, what were you even thinking moments. So sit back, relax, and enjoy one of the most reckless nights of my teenage years. Just to get this out of the way, don't ever do anything like this. It's dumb, it's dangerous, and it could have ended a lot worse. This story is purely for your entertainment. Let's jump in. This all went down back in 2014. It was April, I was 15 years old, and, being 15, I thought I was invincible. I had just fallen in with a new group of friends. You know how it is. You're trying to make a good impression, maybe act a bit cooler than you really are. You don't want to look like the dork who's always worried about getting caught or playing it too safe. And I was trying way too hard to fit in with this crew. These guys were those bad kids that parents always warned you about. But at that point, I was kind of a bad kid myself, so I fit right in, or at least I wanted to. So it was a Saturday evening. I was chilling in my room playing video games when I got a text from one of the guys. He's like, "Yo, what are you up to tonight?" I told him I wasn't doing anything, just chilling, and he hits me back with, "Me, Brad, and Adrian are gonna go out and smoke. You down?" Obviously, I was trying to look cool, so I was like, "Hell yeah, I'm down." Now, I gotta be real. These guys were definitely not the kind of friends who'd help you study for math class. More like the kind who'd help you figure out how to sneak out at 3 a.m. to do some dumb, But I was all in. Around 8 p.m., they text me again, saying they're on their way. I remember looking at the clock and I knew there was no way my mom was gonna let me out that late. So instead of asking for permission and getting a definite no, I went with plan B. I snuck out. I slid open my bedroom window real slow, climbed out and shut it quietly behind me. Then I booked it across the lawn to their car. It felt like a movie scene. I was feeling like James Bond sneaking away on a secret mission. They pulled up and I hopped in, ready for whatever came next. We drove around for a bit, just cruising, listening to music, hitting up a drive-thru, getting some fries. Everything was chill, and after a while, the question came up. Where were we actually gonna smoke? My friend didn't want to smoke in his car. It was his parents' car, and he was worried about the smell giving us away. So my guy Adrian had what he thought was a brilliant idea. He said, "Yo, why don't we just go to the school? We'll go out to the soccer field and smoke there. Nobody's gonna be there on a Saturday night." In my head, I was like, "Bro, the school?" But again, I didn't want to be that guy, the one to ruin the vibe or look scared, so I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." Even though my gut was screaming that this was a terrible idea, I ignored it, so off we went. We get to the school, park in the lot, and head over to the soccer field. My friend's literally rolling a joint in the front seat while we're driving, which, looking back, was reckless as. We hop out and walk across the field, and we all plop down right in the middle of it. It's pitch dark, the stars are out, and it's quiet. Honestly, it was kinda nice, until the paranoia kicked in. We lit up, started smoking, and every time I took a hit, I'd look around. I was scanning the parking lot, the school building, the surrounding streets. I was paranoid as hell. My friends were starting to notice. Brad looks over at me and says, "Yo, Austin, you gotta chill, bro. You're making us all paranoid." I tried to chill out, but I couldn't shake that feeling, like we were just asking to get caught. But I took a deep breath, told myself I was just overthinking it, and tried to relax. We finished the joint and my buddy runs back to the car to grab his bowl and we keep smoking. We were out there for a solid hour just getting obliterated, like way higher than I needed to be. After we finished, we just laid back in the field, staring at the sky, talking about random and laughing. And that's when it hit me. I was starving. I sat up and said, "Yo, I'm so hungry right now." And all of my friends nodded in agreement. The munchies were kicking in for everybody. My buddy, the one who drove us, was like, "Man, I'm too baked to drive anywhere." And I get that. I didn't want to end up in a ditch somewhere because we were too high to function. That's when Adrian had another one of his genius ideas. He goes, "Why don't we just go into the school? They've got that snack cart. We can grab some chips and stuff." Now, in my rational mind, I knew this was a bad idea. Breaking into the school on a Saturday night, but at that point, I was just high enough and just stupid enough to be like, "You know what? I'm down." So we sneak around the back of the school to a classroom window. There was this one window, I kid you not, that had been broken for like 5 years. It never locked properly, and we knew about it from people sneaking out to smoke during school hours. We slide it open, one by one climb through, and boom, we're inside. It was dark as hell, and kinda eerie. The hallway lights were dim, and the school was dead silent. We walked down the halls looking for the room with the snack cart. And let me tell you, navigating that school while high was like walking through a maze. We kept getting lost, walking in circles, giggling, and trying not to make too much noise. The longer it took, the more anxious I got. I kept thinking, we're gonna get caught, this is stupid. But finally, after what felt like an hour, we found it. Jackpot. We raided that snack cart like we were robbing a bank. Chips, candy, Rice Krispies treats, we stuffed everything we could into our pockets. We were ready for a feast. After we're loaded up, it was time to get out. We made our way back through the halls, still struggling to remember where that broken window was. It felt like we were walking through a horror movie. Every sound, every creak of a pipe or echo made me jump. My friends were munching on their snacks already, but I just wanted to get out of there before I even thought about eating anything. Finally, we made it back. We slipped out the window one by one, and once we were all out, we closed it behind us. I was starting to think we might actually pull this off. We were in the back lot of the school, and it was quiet. I couldn't see or hear anything, so I thought we were good. But then, as we started walking around the side of the building to get to the main lot where our car was parked, I noticed something. Blue and red lights reflecting off the windows. I blinked, hoping I was imagining it. But as we got closer, my friend Brad says, "Yo, are those police lights?" And sure enough, we turned the corner, and there they are. 8 cop cars, lights flashing, officers standing around, our car surrounded. It was like a scene out of a nightmare. We froze. Before we could even think about running, one of the officers spotted us. "Hey, stop right there," he yelled. And just like that, we were screwed. They surrounded us, told us to sit on the curb, and slapped cuffs on us. They started questioning us about what we were doing, why we were there, why we thought breaking into our own school was a good idea. I was terrified. I thought I was about to get hauled off to juvie for sure. One of the cops, the chief of police no less, walked up to me, and as soon as he saw me, he goes, "Austin, long time no see." He recognized me from getting swatted and all the other dumb marks I'd been caught doing before. He gave me this long lecture about how I needed to get my life together, how I was going to end up in jail if I kept pulling a bars like this. I felt like the biggest idiot alive. After what felt like hours of sitting there, our parents showed up. The principal showed up too, along with some other staff members. The good news was we didn't get taken to juvie. Instead, we had to sign up for this program for misguided kids. It was like a scared straight program, 6 hours a day, every Saturday for 4 weeks. No phones, no TV, just sitting in a circle with a bunch of other kids who'd messed up, doing talk therapy and watching videos meant to scare us into behaving. The only bright side was that my friends were there with me, but still, it sucked. In the end, it could have been so much worse. We broke into our own school, stole a bunch of snacks, and got caught red-handed. I learned my lesson, at least for a little while, and after that, I knew I had to be smarter about the people I hung out with and the choices I made. It was a dumb move, all to look cool in front of people I barely even knew. Not worth it. Anyway, that's the story. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and seriously, don't do what I did. If you did enjoy it, please leave a like, and feel free to drop a comment with your own stories down below. I'd love to hear them. And yeah, subscribe if you're new. I'll see you guys all later. Peace. Yo, what's up guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. Today's story time is definitely a wild one, and I can't believe I've never shared it before. I was sure I had, but after searching through my channel for a while, it turns out I haven't. So here it is, one of my favorite stories to tell my friends. If you enjoy it, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Also, I'll be live when this video goes up, so if you see it early, click that link in the description or the top comment and come hang out. Anyway, let's jump into it. Today's story time takes place during my last year of high school, right before I decided to quit and pursue YouTube full-time. Things were going great for me, not so much academically since my grades were trash, but overall, life was looking up. My YouTube channel was growing like crazy and I had a lot of exciting things happening at a young age. It was a weird feeling knowing that people in my school were aware of my YouTube channel. Most of them thought it was cool, and that was great, but it also made me feel a bit awkward. Still, I loved that some people were genuinely proud of me. Of course, not everyone was happy about it. There were definitely a few people who were envious and bitter, and they just couldn't stand the fact that I was finding some success. There were even people who would try to bring me down, saying things like, "You know that's not gonna last, right? You should focus on something more realistic." And honestly, it's pretty funny looking back on that now. If any of those people are watching this, yeah, joke's on you, I guess. Anyway, among the people at my school, there was this one guy who also did YouTube. Let's call him Mr. Tech YouTuber. He had a channel with around 10,000 subscribers and he mostly made tech review videos. You know, stuff like reviewing gaming consoles, PCs, tech gadgets. He was really into all that. He'd even go to the launch events for new devices and film the experience. It was pretty cool, and I actually thought his content was great. We were even friends for a while, a couple of years before I started my channel. Now, Mr. Tech YouTuber came from a pretty wealthy family, so he had all the newest gadgets, and his parents bought everything he needed for his videos. It wasn't like he was getting sponsored by these companies, he just had the privilege of being able to afford all the cool new stuff, and I always thought that was impressive. But when my channel started growing and eventually surpassed his in subscriber count, things started to change. I remember that he gradually stopped talking to me and he became more distant, and the bigger my channel got, the more he seemed to resent me. It got to the point where it felt like he hated me, and I never really understood why. I mean, I've always been the type of person who gets genuinely happy for my friends when they succeed, so when I started doing well, I didn't get why he seemed so pissed off about it. One day, I was having a pretty normal school day. I don't remember exactly how many subscribers I had at this point, but it was definitely over 100,000, which was a big deal for me, and I was stoked. Lunchtime came around and I went to the cafeteria with my friends, just like any other day. I always sat with the same 5 friends and we were just chilling at our usual table, eating lunch and talking about our plans for the weekend. Everything was pretty standard, right? Well, that's when things got weird. All of a sudden, I see Mr. Tech YouTuber walking straight towards our table and he looks pissed. He's holding his lunch tray and he slams it down on our table so hard that his chocolate milk splashes everywhere. And yeah, I know how that sounds. It was messy as hell with milk all over the table. Then he sits down, glaring at me and goes, "Austin, we need to talk." I'm taken aback, but I try to keep it cool. I hadn't talked to the guy in months and I had no idea what he was so mad about. I say, "Hey man, what's up? I haven't talked to you in a while. How's it going?" And he's just not having it. He goes, "No, don't give me that expletive. I heard what you've been saying about me." I'm genuinely confused at this point, so I'm like, "What are you talking about? I haven't said anything about you." And that was the truth. I hadn't even mentioned his name in like 6 months, and whenever I did talk about him, it was never negative. He insists that someone told him I was talking trash about him in the cafeteria the day before. According to him, I'd been saying that my channel was better, I was making more money, getting more views, and that he was irrelevant now. I couldn't help but laugh. I was like, "Dude, I never said any of that. And who told you this anyway?" He refuses to say who, which makes no sense, so I tell him, "Look man, only the 5 people sitting at this table were here with me yesterday. If none of them told you that, then it's not true because no one else heard anything I said." He still wasn't buying it though. He said his source was reliable, and I'm just sitting there like, "Bro, listen to me. I didn't say anything about you. Whoever told you that is lying." That's when things escalated. He stands up, walks around the table, and gets right in my face. He starts yelling, "You just think you're better than everyone, don't you? You think your life is so perfect and you're out here flexing on everyone." At this point, I'm losing my patience, and I tell him, "Dude, your life is literally easier than mine. You come from money, you have every opportunity handed to you, and yet you're acting like I'm the one with the perfect life. Just leave me alone, man." And that's when he really lost it. He starts rolling up his sleeves like he wants to fight, and I'm thinking, this can't be serious. I say, "Just go back to your table, man. I don't want to do this right now." He ignores me, grabs my shirt, and pulls me up from my seat. I tell him, "If you put your hands on me one more time, I'm gonna hit you." He doesn't care. He takes his finger and pokes me right in the forehead, hard enough to push me back a bit. And that's when I snapped. I lunged at him, tackled him onto the table, and we both went crashing into everyone's lunch trays. There was chocolate milk, slushies, and fries flying everywhere. We were on top of the table throwing punches at each other. I got a couple of hits in, and he did too. But before it could go any further, a security guard and a lunch lady rushed over and pulled us apart. When they finally got us separated and standing up, I realized I got off pretty easy. My clothes were still clean, and I wasn't covered in food. Meanwhile, Mr. Tech YouTuber looked like a complete mess. His white shirt was stained with chocolate milk, ketchup, and all kinds of random food. Honestly, it was kind of hilarious. The whole cafeteria was staring, and seeing him covered in food like that probably made it look like I'd won the fight. I'm gonna be real with you guys though, there wasn't really a winner. We both got in a few punches, but it ended too quickly for either of us to really come out on top. Still, the way he looked afterward, I'll take the win. After that, we got escorted to the principal's office, and we both ended up getting suspended for 2 days. Honestly, I thought it was gonna be worse, so I wasn't too upset about it. But yeah, that was the last time he ever spoke to me. He kept giving me dirty looks in the hallway, but he never said another word. Not long after that, I quit school to focus on YouTube, and I never saw him again. The funny thing is, before recording this story, I looked up his YouTube channel. He quit YouTube about a year after I left school. He got to around 50,000 or 60,000 subscribers, and then just stopped. He deleted all his videos and posted on Twitter that he was done. I honestly wish he hadn't given up. He had potential, and he was growing pretty fast. He went from 10,000 to 60,000 in a year, which is impressive. I think he could have had a solid career if he'd stuck with it. Anyway, I guess the moral of the story is this: don't give up and don't let jealousy get in the way of your success. Just because someone else is doing well doesn't mean you won't. Everyone has their own journey and we all grow at different rates. Be patient, stay focused, and don't waste your time being bitter about someone else's success. Your time will come. Have it. Thanks for listening to this story time, guys. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments below and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace. Yo, what's good everybody? It's Austin here, or Luna. Today's story time is definitely an awkward one, but for once it's not about me. And honestly, that's kind of a relief. It's kind of about me, but mostly not, if that makes sense. You'll get what I mean soon enough. Anyway, today's story time is about the time I caught this kid in my class doing some weird shit. I hope you enjoy it. If you do, leave a like on the video. Also, if you're watching this in the first few hours of it being posted, I'm live right now, so come check that out. Link in the description. Alright, let's jump into it. So, today's story takes place back when I was in 8th grade, my last year of middle school. Honestly, I loved middle school. It was pretty chill because at least where I went, you couldn't really fail. They just passed you no matter what, so even though I kinda sucked at school, I always ended up passing. It was nice in a way. But man, middle school also had some weird ass moments, and this is one of them. The thing about my middle school class was, there were a lot of strange kids in it. And I'm not saying that to be mean or anything. Everyone's weird to some degree, right? I'm weird, you're weird, we're all weird in our own way. But there were a few kids in my class who were just on a whole different level of weird, like beyond just quirky. It was like they had no awareness of their surroundings or how they affected the people around them. So, one of these kids was a guy named Eric. We'll just call him Eric at least. Now, Eric was a pretty quiet kid. I talked to him maybe twice the whole year, and he seemed pretty cool whenever we did talk, but he kept to himself a lot. He was super shy, and I never thought much of him. He was just another quiet kid, right? But then, Eric did something in class that I'll literally never forget. This story all starts off like any other normal day in 8th grade. I got up, rolled out of bed, took a shower, got ready for school, the usual morning routine. I went to school and the first half of the day was pretty uneventful. Nothing out of the ordinary happened until after lunch. After lunch, we had social studies and we were doing this computer project, so we had to go to the library to work on it. The way the library was set up was pretty straightforward. There were rows of computers like front row, second row, third row, all the way back to row 6 or something like that. If you were in the back row, no one could really see what you were doing unless they were sitting right next to you or walked back there. Eric was in the very last row and he didn't have anyone sitting next to him. There was one person a few chairs down from him, but no one directly beside him, so he pretty much had total privacy back there, at least until I ended up back there too. We all sat down and got to work on our projects, and everything was normal for the first half of class. I was just chilling, talking to a friend of mine, working on my project, and all was good. But then, randomly, my computer just shut off. It turned off completely, mid-project, and I lost a bunch of my work. I couldn't get it to turn back on either. I called the teacher over like, "Yo, my computer just shut off. I don't know what happened." The teacher called over a couple of the library staff to try and fix it, but no one could get it to work. So, my teacher tells me, "You know what, Austin, just go to the back. There are some free computers back there. Sign in on one of those and keep working." I was like, "Alright, cool." So, I got up and went to the back row, and as I was walking up next to Eric, I noticed something that I don't think anyone wants to notice in the middle of a school day. I see Eric sitting at his computer, just casually browsing fucking Pornhub. Yeah, no joke. Dude was on Pornhub, scrolling through the homepage, looking at the thumbnails, trying to decide which video to watch, and I was just like, what the fuck? I did a double take because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I thought maybe I was imagining things, but nope, he was actually doing that. Now, I had a couple of options here. I could have yelled at Eric right then and there, made a scene, and embarrassed the hell out of him, or I could sit down next to him and quietly tell him to close that shit and wait until he got home. I decided to go with the second option. I figured I'd give the guy a break, even though what he was doing was beyond stupid. So I sit down next to him, and the second I do, he quickly closes out of the window like he's trying to hide it. He had no idea I already saw it. I open up my project and look over at him, and he looks back at me all nervous and shit, like, "What? What's up?" And I'm like, "Nothing, man." And he goes, "Why are you looking at my computer?" He was starting to get defensive, and I just looked at him and said, "Eric, bro, you shouldn't be on Pornhub in the middle of the school library. That's not what you should be doing right now." He immediately starts denying it. He's like, "What are you talking about? I wasn't on Pornhub. You're tripping, dude." And I'm like, "Bro, I saw you exit out of the window. I'm not gonna embarrass you right now by making you open up your history, but I know it's still there. Dude, don't do that shit in the middle of a library. If the teacher saw you, or if anyone else walked by, you'd be in so much fucking trouble." He kept trying to deny it, but I wasn't letting it go. I was like, dude, I saw it when I walked up behind you, and I saw you close it when I sat down. Stop lying. And he's like, I'm not lying, man. So I said, all right, then open up your history. And he's like, nah, I'm good. You're being weird. I just looked at him and said, okay, that answers that. And then I asked, wait, how did you even get on that site anyway? Isn't it blocked? He looks at me and just says, VPN. Right there, the truth came out. He admitted it. He was on Pornhub using a VPN to get around the school's filter. I just shook my head and said, alright man, listen, from this point forward, if you're gonna go on that website, just do it at home. If you get caught doing that at school again, you're either gonna get expelled or everyone's just gonna think you're the biggest fucking weirdo ever. So don't do it again. He just nodded and said, alright man, thanks for looking out. I was like, no problem dude, and went back to working on my project. Now, you're probably wondering if Eric learned his lesson or if he kept doing dumb shit like that. Well, guess what? Later that day, during another class, I hear the announcements come on over the intercom and they ask for Eric to come to the principal's office. I remember thinking, oh shit, maybe Eric's getting picked up early or something, or maybe he's in trouble. I wasn't sure. The next day, Eric wasn't at school, and then he wasn't there the day after that either, and then on the third day, he finally came back. So, at lunch I went up to him and asked, yo, what happened? Where were you the last couple of days? I heard your name on the announcements and then you just disappeared. He looks at me and says, alright, if I tell you something, you can't tell anyone, okay? I was like, sure man, what's up? He goes, remember that day in the library when you caught me on Pornhub? I was like, yeah. And he says, well, I didn't know this, but apparently the school can see everything we look up. They saw what I was looking at that day and they called me into the office. I ended up getting suspended for a couple of days. I was like, damn, dude. And he just nodded and said, yeah, but honestly, it could have been worse. The whole school could have found out. And he was right. He was really fucking lucky. Because if anyone else had caught him doing what he was doing, they probably would have told everyone. It would have been all over the school in no time. It was kind of funny, I can't lie, but I kept it to myself. So, yeah, Eric definitely learned his lesson. He never did that shit again, at least not in school. And if there's any moral to this story, it's this. Wait until you're fucking home, okay? Don't pull an Eric. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this story time. It was definitely an interesting one. If you did, please leave a like on the video, I'd really appreciate it. And feel free to leave your own story times in the comments down below and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you guys all later. Peace. Yo, what's good guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. Today's story time is definitely a funny one of those classic OG type of stories. I don't know, the stories I've been telling the last few days kind of remind me of when I first started making YouTube videos. It gives me that same old feeling and I hope you guys enjoy it. If you do, leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Also, I've been live every day. I'm going to stop plugging it in every video, but just so you know, every time one of my videos goes up, I'm usually live at the first link in the description, so come check that out. I'll probably be leaking music and hanging out with you guys. Anyway, let's get into today's story time. So, this story takes place when I was in 9th grade. 9th grade was really when I started becoming a complete and utter idiot. Like, if you think about the craziest story times, a lot of them are from my freshman year. It's kind of funny because for most people, high school starts tame and gradually gets wilder. But for me, it was like the opposite. I started out wild as fuck and then slowly got my shit together as I got older. Anyway, today's story time takes place during my freshman year of high school. The day started off pretty normal, but things escalated pretty quickly. So, I woke up really late that day, like 5 minutes before the bus was supposed to show up at my house. My mom was already at work and I had no time to get ready, so I made a decision. I just wasn't gonna go to school. I was like, fuck it, I'll just let the bus go by, miss it on purpose, and then tell my mom I couldn't get a ride. I'll skip today. That was my thought process, and yeah, it definitely shows just how much I didn't give a shit back then. So, 5 minutes later, the bus pulls up, waits at my house for like a minute, and then drives off, and I was like, alright, cool, now what? I had the whole day ahead of me, and I had a bunch of options. I could play video games, go to the mall, get some food. I had like 20 bucks in my room, so I figured I'd go grab something to eat. The possibilities were endless, you know? So, I went downstairs and decided to start my day off by live streaming. It was like 7 in the morning, and I was live streaming myself playing Modern Warfare 2. I had maybe 3 viewers the entire time. Definitely not the ideal time to be streaming, but I didn't care. I streamed for about 45 minutes and after that I decided to go out and get some food. While I was getting food, my phone starts ringing. It's my mom, and I already knew what this was about. Every time I skipped school or missed the bus, the school would call my mom and tell her that I wasn't there. So I answered the phone and my mom goes, "Hey, why aren't you in school?" And I was like, "Oh, I missed the bus." She says, "And you didn't tell me?" I tried to play it off. I thought I texted you. And she's like, "Don't give me that bullshit, you didn't text me." And I was like, "Oh, my bad." Then she goes, "Alright, well, I'm gonna try and find you a ride to school. If I can't find one, you're grounded." I was like, "Yeah, whatever." I didn't care at all. 5 minutes later, she calls me back and tells me she couldn't find a ride and that when she got home, I was getting everything taken away. My phone, my Xbox, everything. And I was like, "Okay, sure." I was just being a little shit, completely unfazed. About an hour later, I was sitting around bored out of my mind, not sure what to do. So I called up two of my friends who were at school and it was lunchtime. I asked them, "Yo, what are you guys doing after school?" They said, "Nothing, what about you?" I said, "Nothing. This is probably my last day for a while where I can actually do something fun because my mom's gonna take all my shit. So you guys wanna hang out?" They were down, so they told me to meet them in front of the school after it let out. Now, my school wasn't close to where I lived, not even a little bit, but I was like, you know what? Fuck it. So, at about 1 p.m., I hopped on my bike and started riding to school. The school let out at around 2:50, so I had about 2 hours to get there. And let me tell you, it was a hell of a ride. I had to haul ass to make it in time. It took me almost a full 2 hours to get there, but I made it. By the time I got there, I was drenched in sweat, out of breath, just looking like shit. My two friends come out, take one look at me, and they're like, "Dude, you look fucking awful." And I was like, "Yeah, I just biked all the way here." They asked how far it was, and I said, "I don't even know, but it was far." So I finally catch my breath and I ask, "Alright, what do you guys want to do?" They say, "Want to smoke some weed?" And I was always down for that, so I said, "Hell yeah, let's do it." But we had a problem. We couldn't go back to their houses because their parents were home, and we definitely couldn't go back to mine. So I was like, "Fuck it, let's go to the woods across the street." We cross the street, head into the woods, and my friend Connor pulls out a joint that he had stashed in his backpack. We start smoking, just talking and laughing, when all of a sudden we hear twigs snapping behind us, like someone or something was moving through the woods. We all froze. I don't know if it was the weed, the paranoia, or just the situation, but we all started freaking out. I thought it was a fucking bear, or worse, someone catching us smoking. I grabbed my backpack and said, "Yo, we need to get out of here." My friends grabbed their shit and we all took off running. As we were running, we heard someone shout, "Stop right there." And right then, I knew it wasn't an animal. I turned around and sure enough, it was a fucking cop, the school police officer to be exact. The same cop who knew us all by face and name. I was like, shit, we're fucked. We had two choices. We could stop and let him take us back to the school and call our parents, or we could just keep running and deal with the consequences later. And of course, we chose the second option. We kept running, made it out of the woods, and crossed the street back to the school. We were way ahead of the cop and we lost sight of him. We ran around to the back of the school and slipped in through one of the back entrances, running into an empty classroom to hide. We sat in that classroom for a good 10 minutes, just trying to catch our breath, wondering what the hell we were gonna do next. Hiding inside the school wasn't the smartest idea, especially considering the cop worked there. He was gonna find us eventually. So, we came up with a quick plan. I said, "Alright, here's what we're gonna do. We'll run outside, grab my bike, and someone can hop on the pegs while the other one runs next to us. We'll just get the hell out of here and go back to my house." Now, we couldn't go to their houses because their parents were home, but my mom didn't get home until late, like 9 at night, so we figured we'd be safe there for a while. We ran out of the back of the school, sprinted to the front, and I grabbed my bike. The cop was nowhere to be seen. One of my friends hopped on the pegs, the other ran next to us, and we took off towards my house. It was a long-ass ride, 2 hours, but we made it. When we got to my place, we had about 3 hours until my mom got home. We just chilled, played some Call of Duty, smoked a little more, and tried to enjoy our last moments of freedom before everything fell apart. And let me tell you, I'll never forget the feeling of hearing the garage door open when my mom got home. She walked in, saw all three of us sitting there, high as kites, playing Call of Duty, and she just goes, "Alright everyone, get in the car, I'm taking you all home." I heard what happened. The principal called me. "You're all in a lot of trouble." So we all got up to get in the car, but she stopped me and said, "Not you, Austin. You're staying here. You're grounded. 6 months." And I was like, 6 months? She was dead serious. My friends looked at me with these "damn, that sucks" expressions, and my mom drove them home. The principal had already called their parents, so they knew what happened. My friends got grounded too, and the next day at school, I met up with them and asked, "Yo, how long are you guys grounded for?" They both said, 1 month. I was like, 1 fucking month? I got 6. It felt like I got a fucking jail sentence compared to them. But I guess I deserved it. I mean, from the moment I decided not to go to school, I was just digging myself into a deeper and deeper hole. So, yeah, that's the story. The moral here is, Ninth grade Austin was a little shit, and you probably shouldn't be like him. Oh, and it gets even better. When we got back to school the next day, we saw the school cop. He pulled us aside and said, "Hey, if I ever catch you guys doing something like that again and you run from me, I'm calling in backup and we're gonna arrest you." So that was fun to hear. Luckily, we didn't get arrested or end up in a ton of trouble with the cops. It was mainly our parents we had to deal with. In the end, my mom said I was grounded for 6 months, but it ended up being more like 3 because she gave up on it halfway through. Still, it felt like forever. It was just a classic case of me being a dumbass teenager. But yeah, that's it for today's story. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace. Yo, what's good guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. I hope you all are doing well today. I'm doing pretty good myself. First off, I just want to say thank you all so much for the support on Adios, my new song. If you guys haven't heard it yet, I'll put it as the first link in the description. I hope you enjoy it. Also, I'm going to be live on Kick right after this video goes up, so I'll put that link in the description too. Come through if you want to hang out. I'll be playing some games, chatting with you guys, just kicking it. No pun intended. Now, today's story time is definitely a funny, but also kinda creepy one. I hope you enjoy it, and if you do, leave a like on the video. Let's jump right into it. So, this story takes place when I was 18 years old. I had just moved to LA and I was having a pretty good time. I was enjoying myself, things were going pretty smoothly, nothing too out of the ordinary was happening, and honestly, I thought all the weird crazy shit I'd been through was behind me. I thought I left all the swatting, the stalker behavior, and the wild stories back in New York. I thought that moving to LA would mean a fresh start, with nothing like that happening again. But little did I know, that was just the beginning of an even crazier chapter in my life. This all takes place about 3 weeks after I'd moved to LA. I'd just gotten settled into my new place. I was living in a house with a few friends. I was just enjoying life, really having a good time. My friends and I decided to throw a party, a kind of housewarming party to celebrate moving in. So, all of us banded together to invite as many people as we could. I didn't have that many friends in LA yet, besides the people I was living with, but my friends had been there for a while and they knew plenty of people to invite, so it was basically a bunch of people I didn't know coming over for this party. By around 7 or 8 p.m, people started showing up and I was meeting a bunch of new faces, just hanging out, saying hello. So far, everyone who showed up seemed really cool, nothing out of the ordinary. The party was going well, but then around 11 p.m. or maybe closer to midnight, things started getting a little weird. I was in the kitchen, just chilling and eating some pizza, talking to some people, when I heard the doorbell ring. I figured more people were arriving for the party, so I went downstairs to open the front door. When I opened the door, there was this group of dudes, probably about 7 or 8 guys. They were all standing there, looking like they were ready to party. I didn't recognize them, so I asked who had invited them, just to make sure they actually knew someone at the house. One of them said, "Jake invited us." And I'm standing there thinking, who the fuck is Jake? No one I lived with was named Jake, so I was like, hold on a sec, let me check. I told him to wait at the door, ran upstairs, and found one of my roommates. I was like, yo, there are some random people at the door. They said some guy named Jake invited them. Do you know a Jake? And my roommate was like, oh yeah, actually I do. Hold on. He went over to this guy named Jake, who was already at the party, and asked if he knew these people. Jake said, yeah, they're chill, you can trust them. So, based on that, we let these random dudes into our house. They were friends of a friend, basically, and we figured it was fine. It's a party, there are tons of people we don't know. What could go wrong, right? Well, a lot went wrong. The rest of the night went fine, for the most part anyway. Everyone was having fun, and nothing seemed out of the ordinary. But the next morning, I woke up to a very, very strange situation. So I wake up with a massive headache. I was exhausted. I hadn't gotten much sleep. I dragged myself out of bed, went upstairs, drank some water, took a shower, just trying to wake up and get my day started. I was hungry, so I decided to go down the street to this bagel place and grab a bagel for breakfast. I walked up to the front door where all my shoes were, and when I went to grab a pair, I noticed something. Every single pair of my shoes was missing. And I'm not talking about just one pair. I had like 4 pairs by the front door and all of them were gone. Luckily, they weren't my nicest shoes, just some sandals and Vans, nothing crazy. But still, I was like, what the fuck? Where are my shoes? I went upstairs to my room, where I had some other pairs, put them on, and headed out to grab my bagel. I figured it was weird, but maybe I just misplaced them somehow. When I got back, all my roommates were awake, so I started asking them about it. I was like, yo, did anyone wear my shoes last night? Because I can't find them anywhere. One of my friends was like, what, the ones by the front door? I nodded. Yeah. He shook his head. Nah, I haven't touched them. I asked my other roommates and they all said the same thing. They hadn't touched my shoes. At this point, I'm just thinking, what the fuck? Where could they have gone? I started searching the backyard, went into my friends' rooms, nothing. I couldn't find these 4 pairs of shoes anywhere. After a while, I just gave up. I figured maybe I put them somewhere weird while I was drunk and I'd find them eventually, so I stopped worrying about it for the rest of the day. Fast forward about a day or two, and I'm just chilling in my room, working on a video, when I get a text from one of my friends back home in New York. He sent me a link, and it was an eBay link. I clicked on it, and the listing title read, YouTuber's Shoes. I thought, nah, no way. I clicked on the listing, and sure enough, there were all 4 pairs of my shoes lined up on a table, with a little piece of paper next to them that had the seller's name written on it. And in the next photo, there was a screenshot of my YouTube channel, along with a photo of me wearing the shoes on Instagram. I was in complete shock. I texted my friend back immediately, yo, what the hell is this? And he replied, dude, please tell me this is a troll. I was like, it's not. I've literally been looking for these shoes all morning and now I know where they are. He texted back, what the fuck? Who took them? I replied, bro, I wish I knew. So, I started reaching out to people who had been at the party that night, asking if anyone had seen someone take my shoes. No one could give me an answer. I literally started texting everyone who was there. I was getting numbers from my roommates and hitting up everyone who had attended. I must have texted like 30 people and no one had any clue about my shoes. Then, randomly, one of my roommates, let's call him Sam, came up to me. He was like, yo, why don't we just check the front door cameras? I was like, what front door cameras? And he goes, we have cameras here. I was like, you mean to fucking tell me I've been searching all morning and we have security cameras at the front door? Do they look at the inside or the outside? He said, both. I stared at him. Wait, we have cameras inside the house too? He nodded. Yeah, you didn't know that? I was like, no, thanks for mentioning it now, Sam. So, we ran upstairs to his room. It was the master bedroom where the camera computer was. He pulled up the footage from the night of the party and we started scrolling through it. Within 5 minutes, we found exactly what we were looking for. At around 1 a.m., 1:06 to be exact, there was a group of people leaving the house. It was that group of random dudes that Jake had invited. As they were leaving, one of them leaned down, scooped up all of my shoes in both of his arms, and walked out the door, laughing with his friends. They were all laughing, watching him do it. I looked over at Sam and he looked back at me. Well, now we know who did it, he said. I nodded. Yup. So, we ran upstairs to our other roommate's room, the one who knew Jake. We knocked on the door and I was like, yo, I need Jake's number. He gave it to us and I texted Jake, your friend stole my shoes. Please tell me who they are. Jake didn't have to be cool about it. He didn't have to help me at all, but he ended up giving me the names of everyone in that group, including the guy who took my shoes. He knew exactly who it was when I showed him the camera footage. His name was Arthur. Fucking Arthur. So, I got Arthur's name and number and decided to call him. I FaceTimed him and he picked up, not knowing it was me. He answered the phone and he was like, oh, Austin. Good seeing you last night, man. It was really nice to meet you. I was like, I don't think we even met, bro. He was like, oh no, we did. I said, alright, well, I was probably too fucked up to remember. But what I'm not too fucked up to remember is checking my cameras and seeing your dumbass stealing my shoes. What do you have to say about that? His face immediately changed. He looked like he was in shock. He was like, oh shit, man, I'm so embarrassed. I said, okay, so you admit it. You took my shoes? He sighed. Yeah, man, I did. My bad. I asked, why? He stammered, I get too fucked up, man. I got too drunk and I thought it'd be funny to prank you. I was like, really? That's the only reason? You weren't trying to sell them or anything? He quickly said, what? No, that would be weird. I replied, oh yeah? Let me send you something. I texted him the eBay link and his face went pale. Oh, you saw that too? He said. I just nodded. Bro, you're just getting caught left and right today. I said, alright, here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna put my shoes in the back of your car, drive back to my house right now, give me my shoes, and then leave. And I don't ever want to see you again. Sound good? He nodded. Yeah, I got you. And he actually did it. He showed up, handed me a box with all my shoes in it, and then left. He tried apologizing about 30 times, and I appreciated it, but I just kept saying, it's all good, man. It's all good. But in my head, I was thinking, this dude is never getting invited back here again. A fucking shoe thief, man. I thought moving to LA would be a fresh start, but it just brought a new set of problems. After that, we didn't throw another party for a few weeks. I was too paranoid about my shit getting stolen. When we eventually did throw another party, I locked all of my stuff up in my room. I learned that lesson real quick. So yeah, that's the moral of today's story. If you ever have a party and there are people you don't really know or trust, lock your valuables up in your room. Don't let people go in there, just to make sure nothing gets broken or stolen. But yeah, that's the story of how someone tried to sell my damn shoes on eBay. And they weren't even nice shoes. They were beat up Vans and slides, like no one wants my smelly ass shoes. The dude could have at least stolen something worth the trouble, like, I don't know, my YouTube play button or something. But no, he went for the beat up Vans. Anyway, I thought this was a funny, kind of crazy story. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your own story times in the comments down below. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe. I'll see you guys all later. Peace. Yo, what's up guys? It's Austin here, or Luna, whichever you prefer. Today's story time is about someone in particular, someone who wasn't exactly the brightest in my school. And of course, it also involves me. I thought you guys would enjoy this one, so let's jump right into it. This story takes place at the beginning of 10th grade. It was during one of my late period classes, like the second to last one before we were out for the day. There was this girl I sat next to, let's call her Cassidy. Now, Cassidy wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed. No offense if you're watching this, Cassidy, but I'm about to explain why you didn't exactly come off as the smartest person I knew. So, it's the start of the school year, and most of the first month had gone pretty smoothly. One day, Cassidy and I are in class, just doing our thing. We didn't talk much unless we needed help with homework or projects, but I knew from mutual friends that Cassidy loved to party. She was always at some kind of party. This particular day, class starts off pretty normal. Quiet, we're all just hanging out, kind of doing our schoolwork. Well, I was kind of doing my work, and she was too, but neither of us was really focused. Out of nowhere, I feel a tap on my shoulder. I look over, and Cassidy just shushes me, then reaches into her bag and pulls out this little orange pill bottle. I'm thinking, is that pills? I thought it might be a prescription for her or something. I mean, who would just start popping pills in the middle of class, right? But then she looks at me, smiles and goes, "You want some?" I'm like, "No, Cassidy, what are you doing?" And she just shushes me again. She takes the top off the pill bottle and there's no label on it. She pops one of the pills and I'm just sitting there like, what is this girl doing right now? I couldn't tell what kind of pills they were, but my best guess was Xanax because I knew from a mutual friend that she had taken them before. She was holding the bottle under the desk, so I couldn't get a good look at them, and like I said, there was no label. She puts the pills back in her bag, and in my head, I'm thinking, okay, that was really weird. I try to ignore it, thinking maybe they were actually prescribed to her, and she just tore the label off to look cool or something. I was a little worried about her, but she seemed like the type to joke around, so maybe they were just regular pills she took daily. We go on with the class, and I'm thinking that's the end of it, but nope. I get another tap on my shoulder, and I look over. She's got the pill bottle out again, whispering, "Shh." I'm like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Do you want some?" At this point, I feel like I'm in some kind of ASMR video with all this whispering going on. I'm also worried we're gonna get caught because she keeps talking, even if it's in a whisper. And of course, as I'm thinking about getting caught, I hear the teacher go, "Hey, you two, quiet down over there at table 7. That was our table number. I look up, nod and say, "Yep." And Cassidy quickly puts the pills back in her bag. I'm thinking, alright, that's it. She's done now. But nope. As soon as the teacher looks away, Cassidy reaches back into her bag again. I look at her and whisper, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Sorry, I want some." Right then, I look back up and the teacher sees her. The teacher goes, "Cassidy, what are you reaching for?" Cassidy says, "Nothing, just need another pencil." The teacher goes, "You have 2 on your desk already. Why do you need another one?" Cassidy goes, "This one's not good. I want my mechanical one." I gotta admit, she was quick with the excuses. But the teacher wasn't buying it. She stands up and starts walking over, and I'm thinking, yep, she's about to get busted. The teacher walks over, looks in Cassidy's bag, and sees the orange pill bottle. She asks, "Cassidy, are these prescribed to you?" She grabs the bottle, and since the label was ripped off, there's no way to prove it. Cassidy goes, "Yeah, Mom, I'm prescribed them." The teacher goes, "No, these are unmarked. That's an unmarked pill bottle. Go to the office right now and tell them what I just found. And if you don't tell them the truth, I'll call up and tell them myself." Cassidy tries to argue, No, it's not what you think." But the teacher isn't having it. She's like, "Nope, office, now. Austin, you too." I'm like, wait, why me?" She goes, "Clearly, you two were both involved in this." I'm like, No, I wasn't involved at all. And the whole class is giggling at this point, and I'm just sitting there like, I didn't do anything. But the teacher goes, "I heard you two whispering. I think you were both involved." I'm like, "Please explain how you have any proof that I was involved in her having pills in her backpack." And she goes, "I don't know. Maybe you sold them to her." At that point, I'm just like, you know what? Screw this. I got up and walked out. Not the best move, but I was pissed and I was acting on the impulse. I left school and called my mom, like, hey, you're gonna get a call from the office saying I left. I got accused of something I didn't do, so I walked out. She's like, what did they accuse you of? I tell her, the teacher thinks I sold pills to a girl in my class. My mom's like, alright, that's bullshit. Luckily, my mom understood the situation and I didn't get in much trouble. I ended up with one lunch detention where I had to sit with the teacher during lunch, which wasn't exactly fun, but it could have been worse. Cassidy, on the other hand, got suspended for 2 days, rightfully so. Moral of the story? Don't be like Cassidy. Definitely don't do what she did. And also, don't do what I did. Walking out of school in a fit of anger isn't the best choice. But hey, I thought this was a funny, crazy little story time, and luckily I didn't end up getting arrested or anything. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video, I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments, and if you're new here, subscribe. I'll see you all later. Peace.